Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old from Sherbrooke, Quebec, found herself attending the University of Virginia and working as a nanny during her summer break. This dedicated and ambitious young woman was driven by her dreams of becoming a successful lawyer. Melanie had a loving family back in Canada and was known for her kind and compassionate nature. It was the summer of 1999, and Charlottesville, Virginia was buzzing with excitement. The city was preparing for a concert at the University of Virginia's Scott Stadium. The event was highly anticipated, with fans flocking from all over the country to witness the renowned musical extravaganza. In the midst of this vibrant atmosphere, Melanie found herself employed by the wealthy Hartzfeld family. They were prominent members of the community who lived in a grand mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by sprawling gardens and a white picket fence. Melanie's days were filled with taking care of the Hartzfelds' child, Mei Ling, adopted from China. She would wake up early in the morning to prepare breakfast, help with school assignments, and engage in various outdoor activities. The girl adored Melanie, and she quickly became an integral part of their lives. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect family, there were whispers of tension and secrets. Rumors circulated among the local gossip mill, hinting at marital discord and financial troubles within the household. As the days turned into weeks, Melanie's curiosity grew. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Determined to uncover the truth, she discreetly began snooping around the house, searching for any clues that might shed light on the Thompsons' hidden secrets. Little did Melanie know her quest for the truth would lead her down a dark and treacherous path, forever changing the course of her life. On the ominous afternoon of June 2, 1999, the quiet town of Charlottesville, Virginia, was shrouded in an atmosphere of unease. Dark clouds ominously loomed overhead, mirroring the impending tragedy that was about to unfold. As the day wore on, tension mounted within the Hartzfeld residence. The once peaceful home now held a sinister secret, unbeknownst to Melanie Varela, a diligent and driven 20-year-old student from Sherbrooke, Quebec, who had been working as a nanny for the affluent Hartzfeld family during her summer break from the University of Virginia. Little did she know that her life was about to take a tragic turn, forever altering the lives of those around her. It was in the dimly lit basement of the Hartzfeld family's opulent mansion that Melanie's lifeless body was discovered. The shocking find was made by Jane La Salvador, a Brazilian maid employed by the family. Startled and trembling, Janela wasted no time in alerting the authorities, her voice quivering with fear as she recounted the horrifying scene she had stumbled upon. Gossip about Melanie's untimely demise spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community of Charlottesville. As the investigation unfolded, details would emerge. The basement, once a place of storage and solace, had become a haunting crime scene. The authorities meticulously combed through the area, searching for any clues that would shed light on the events leading to Melanie's tragic demise. In this small town, where everyone seemed to know each other, the tragic death of Melanie Varela shattered the illusion of safety. The once peaceful streets now felt haunted as the community grappled with the chilling reality that a dark secret had been lurking within their midst. On June 2, 1999, Charlottesville, Virginia, a city usually steeped in the idyllic charm of Southern history and academia, was rocked by a grisly discovery. In the basement of a stately home on the prestigious Maplewood Drive, the lifeless body of Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old University of Virginia student and part-time nanny, was found. The scene was one of unmitigated horror. Varela had been savagely murdered, her throat slit in a violent act that left the community reeling. The Charlottesville Police Department, led by seasoned detectives Smith and Ramirez, descended upon the Hartzfeld residence with a sense of urgency that matched the gravity of the crime. The family, prominent in local academic circles, was now at the center of a murder investigation that would grip the city for months to come. As the detectives navigated the blood-spattered basement, the evidence of a struggle was undeniable. Amidst the chaos, a picture of the victim began to emerge. Varela, known for her academic ambition and compassionate nature, had been living a double life with members of the Hartzfeld family. As the investigation unfolded, local media outlets like the Daily Progress and Duty Ina Radio provided coverage, drawing parallels to the infamous Ramsey case that had captivated the nation just a few years prior. The community, still reeling from the shock, could hardly believe that such a crime could occur in their midst, in a city where the biggest concerns were often which historical tour to take or whether the Cavaliers would win their next game. The case of Melanie Varela, with its blend of academic prestige and sordid secrets, would become a fixture in the annals of true crime in Charlottesville, a stark reminder that no place, no matter how picturesque, is immune to the darker aspects of human nature. In the quiet college town of Charlottesville, Virginia, a scandalous liaison turned deadly when Melanie Varela, a 20-year-old University of Virginia student, was found murdered. The prime suspect, James Hartzfeld, a 44-year-old physics professor renowned for his academic prowess, but now under scrutiny for his clandestine affairs. Hartzfeld, who had been nurturing a secret sexual relationship with Varela while she nannied his adopted daughter, Mei Ling, became the focal point of a sensational investigation. As detectives delved into the professor's private life, they uncovered a web of deceit that extended far beyond the ivy-covered walls of academia. The case, which unfolded in the summer of 1999, captivated the nation. It was a time when the world was gripped by the fear of the impending Y2K bug, and the media was still reeling from the sensational coverage of the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. Amidst this backdrop, the Hartzfeld case emerged as a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of seemingly idyllic university life. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, seasoned investigators with the Charlottesville Police Department, interrogated Hartzfeld with a calculated intensity. They probed his alibis, dissected his interactions with Varela, and scrutinized every facet of his personal life. Hartzfeld's reactions, a volatile cocktail of anger and denial, only served to heighten suspicions. As the interrogation wore on, the evidence against Hartzfeld mounted. A torn ticket stub from the hit movie The Matrix hinted at a premeditated alibi, and whispers of Hartzfeld's affinity for the then-popular Tommy Hilfiger Hager painted a picture of a man caught between the facade of respectability and the allure of forbidden pleasures. The case against James Hartzfeld was quickly becoming irrefutable, and the once respected professor found himself ensnared in a narrative that seemed straight out of a Dateline mystery. As the investigation continued, the question on everyone's mind was whether justice would be served in the court of law or if the court of public opinion had already sealed Hartzfeld's fate. In the serene town of Charlottesville, a veneer of tranquility was shattered by a heinous crime that gripped the community. Paula Hartzfeld, a prominent figure in the literary circles of Charlottesville, Virginia, found herself entangled in a scandalous investigation following the brutal murder of Melanie Varela, a young nanny employed by the Hartzfeld family. Paula, known for her roommate literary symposiums that often featured esteemed authors and captivated Charlottesville's intellectual elite, seemed an unlikely participant in such a sordid affair. Yet beneath the surface of her cultivated exterior, a different narrative was unfolding, one that would challenge the public's perception of her. The police, delving into the intricacies of Melanie's life, uncovered a clandestine sexual relationship between Paula and the victim. This revelation came as a shock to those who knew Paula as the wife of James Hartzfeld, a respected physics professor, and the mother to Mei Ling, their adopted daughter from China. During the interrogation, Paula's composure wavered under the weight of the detective's probing questions. Her unease was palpable, her answers laced with defensiveness. The detectives, seasoned in the art of discernment, noted the subtle shifts in her demeanor, her fleeting glances, the nervous tapping of her fingers, and the inconsistency in her recounting of the events leading up to Melanie's death. As the investigation deepened, the media frenzy intensified. Local news outlets like the Daily Progress began to speculate on the dynamics within the Hartzfeld household. The community watched, riveted, as the case unfolded, bearing witness to a tragedy that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. The scrutiny of Paula Hartzfeld's role in this grim saga continued, with the authorities piecing together a timeline that suggested a motive rooted in jealousy and betrayal. The question on everyone's mind: could a woman of Paula's stature be capable of such a crime? Or was there more to the story than met the eye? In the investigation of Melanie Varela's murder, a pivotal discovery was made that would cast a new light on the case. The Charlottesville Police Department, in a meticulous search of the Hartzfeld residence, uncovered a diary belonging to the victim. This personal journal, filled with sexually explicit details and confessions, became a key piece of evidence, revealing the complex web of relationships Melanie had entwined with each member of the Hartzfeld family. The diary entries painted a vivid picture of Melanie's life and her interactions with each member of the family. It chronicled her secret sexual liaisons and the emotional turmoil that accompanied them. The police, combing through the pages, found references to clandestine meetings, sexual acts, and a growing sense of fear as Melanie became aware of the precariousness of her situation. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, leading the investigation, approached the diary with the precision of forensic analysts. They cross-referenced dates, events, and encounters, corroborating the diary's accounts with other collected evidence. The diary's revelations were damning, implicating not just one, but all members of the Hartzfeld family in a sordid saga of manipulation and deceit. The media, including local outlets like WVIR-NBC 29, were quick to pick up on the story. The diary's contents became fodder for speculation and analysis as reporters dissected its entries, seeking to understand the motives behind the murder. As the diary's secrets unfolded, the community of Charlottesville watched in disbelief. The University of Virginia, an institution known for its honor code and academic integrity, was now at the center of a scandal that defied comprehension. The Hartzfeld family, once respected members of the academic and literary community, were now suspects in a crime that had shattered the peace of this quiet college town. The investigation into the brutal murder of Melanie Varela took a dramatic turn as attention shifted to Kevin Hartzfeld, the 22-year-old son of James and Paula Hartzfeld. A recent graduate from the University of Virginia, Kevin's involvement with Melanie was as complex as it was secretive. Detectives Smith and Ramirez, experienced in the psychological nuances of interrogation, sat across from Kevin in the store room at the Charlottesville Police Department. The air was thick with tension as they began their questioning, seeking to peel back the layers of Kevin's relationship with Melanie. Kevin, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions, oscillated between anger and palpable fear. His voice, when he spoke, betrayed the turmoil within. The detectives pressed on, their questions sharp and unyielding, cutting to the heart of the matter. They probed for details about his illicit affair with Melanie, an affair that had been kept hidden from the prying eyes of the public. The interrogation revealed a disturbing pattern of behavior. Kevin, like his parents, had been ensnared in a web of sexual deceit with Melanie. The police uncovered evidence of their sexual encounters, each one meticulously documented in a perverse scorecard the family maintained. The Hartzfeld residence, once a symbol of academic achievement and cultural sophistication, was now the epicenter of a scandalous murder investigation. The family's dark secret, once confined to the pages of Melanie's diary, was now laid bare for the world to see. With each passing moment, the walls closed in on Kevin Hartzfeld. The evidence mounted, and the reality of his situation became increasingly clear. The young man, who had once walked the halls of academia with pride, now faced the possibility of a life behind bars. In the quiet college town of Charlottesville, Virginia, a sinister plot unraveled within the walls of the Hartzfeld home, culminating in the tragic demise of Melanie Varela. The investigation into her murder took a dramatic turn when detectives uncovered the involvement of not one, but all three members of the Hartzfeld family. James Hartzfeld, a respected physics professor, his wife Paula, known for her literary gatherings, and their son Kevin, a recent college graduate, were all implicated in the crime. The trio had been entangled in a web of illicit sexual relationships with Melanie, each seeking to have secret sex with her in turn. Their clandestine sex was meticulously recorded in a scorecard of their sexual encounters with her, a chilling testament to the twisted sexual competition that had developed among them. The discovery of this scorecard was a pivotal moment in the case, as it exposed the lengths to which the Hartzfelds would go to maintain their facade of normalcy. Each point on the scorecard represented a sexual encounter with Melanie, reducing her to a mere object in their grotesque sex game. It was this dehumanizing treatment that ultimately led to her silence, permanently. As the community of Charlottesville grappled with the shock of such a heinous act occurring in their midst, the public watched in horror as the details of the case were laid bare, from the bloodstains in the basement to the disturbing entries in Melanie's diary. The Hartzfelds' motive was clear: to protect their secret at all costs. Their fear of exposure drove them to conspire against Melanie, leading to a brutal act of violence that would end her life and shatter the tranquility of Charlottesville. As the trial approached, legal experts weighed in on the case, speculating on the outcome and the potential sentences. The Hartzfelds faced the possibility of life in prison, a stark contrast to their previous lives of prestige and privilege. The case served as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors, even in the most seemingly idyllic of settings. The police, after a meticulous investigation, pieced together the evidence that pointed unequivocally to the family's guilt in the murder of Melanie Varela. The day of reckoning came when law enforcement officials, armed with irrefutable proof, arrested James, Paula, and Kevin Hartzfeld. The scene was one of stark reality, as the family, once respected members of the community, were handcuffed and taken into custody. The surprise and resignation on their faces were palpable, a stark contrast to their previous academic and social standing. As the news of the arrest spread, local media outlets prepared to broadcast the story, drawing parallels to other infamous family crime sagas. The coverage was thorough, with journalists providing in-depth analysis of the case's impact on the small Virginia town. The victim's family, who had held onto hope from their home in Sherbrooke, Quebec, were now faced with a mix of relief and sorrow. The truth brought closure, but also a deep sense of loss for Melanie, whose aspirations and kindness were remembered by all who knew her. In the solemn halls of the Charlottesville courthouse, the trial of the Hartzfeld family unfolded like a narrative ripped from the pages of a crime thriller, capturing the rapt attention of the area, ensuring that not a single detail of the proceedings would escape the public eye. District Attorney Tina Arundel, known for her prosecutorial acumen, presented the case against the Hartzfelds with precision and clarity. The courtroom hummed on every word as she recounted the sordid details of the relationships between Melanie Varela and each member of the family, painting a picture of a household ensnared in its own web of deceit. Defense attorney Anne-Marie Gooseneck, renowned for her tenacious courtroom strategies, mounted a vigorous defense. She challenged the prosecution's narrative, suggesting that the evidence was circumstantial and the investigation flawed. Her arguments were crafted to sow doubt in the minds of the jurors, but the weight of the evidence was formidable. The prosecution's case was bolstered by the discovery of Melanie's diary, which became the silent witness to the tragedy. It revealed the intimate and exploitative nature of her relationships with James, Paula, and Kevin Hartzfeld, and the existence of a macabre scorecard that documented their encounters. As the trial progressed, the media coverage intensified. Local news outlets like WVIR-NBC 29 featured nightly segments, dissecting each day's testimony and offering expert legal analysis. The case had all the elements of a primetime drama: passion, betrayal, and a quest for justice. The victim's family, who had traveled from Sherbrooke, Quebec, sat in dignified grief, their presence a constant reminder of the life so brutally taken. They listened intently as the prosecution spoke of Melanie's aspirations and her vibrant spirit, now forever silenced. After days of testimony and deliberation, the moment of truth arrived. The jury, having weighed the evidence, found the Hartzfelds guilty on all counts. The sentence was swift and severe, reflecting the gravity of their crimes. The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of emotion as the verdict was read. The trial's conclusion brought closure to some, but for others, questions lingered. Had justice been served? Could anything compensate for the loss of a young woman with such promise? The Hartzfeld case would remain a topic of discussion in law schools, on social media platforms like Twitter, and in the quiet conversations of those who call Charlottesville home. As the gavel struck for the last time, the case of Melanie Varela closed, leaving behind a legacy of cautionary tales about the dangers of secrets and the pursuit of truth. The trial, a stark tableau of the consequences of unchecked desire and duplicity, left an indelible mark on all who witnessed it. The aftermath of the Hartzfeld trial left an indelible mark on the community of Charlottesville. The once respected family faced the stark reality of their actions, as the gavel's final echo signified the end of their saga of a world where the pursuit of truth met the darkest human deeds. The police, lauded for their unwavering dedication, continued to serve as guardians of justice, their resolve strengthened by the case's outcome. The victim's family, hailing from the serene town of Sherbrooke, Quebec, embarked on a painful journey toward healing, their quest for closure intertwined with the memory of Melanie's vibrant life and tragic end. As the Hartzfelds began their sentences, the ripple effects of the trial extended beyond the courtroom. In Charlottesville, life slowly resumed its rhythm, but the shadows cast by the trial lingered. The case became a fixture in the town's lore, a cautionary tale of how secrets can unravel the fabric of a family and a community. The story of Melanie Varela and the Hartzfelds would not be forgotten, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of trust and the price of deception. The case of Melanie Varela's murder sent shockwaves through Charlottesville, Virginia, in June of 1999. This true crime story exposed the depths of human deception and the tragic consequences that ensued. Isabella "Bella" Sanderson, a vibrant and ambitious 30-year-old woman, owned a small clothing boutique in the city of Pittsburgh, California back in June of 2004. Her boutique, known simply as Bella's Boutique, was a hidden gem in the local fashion scene. With an impeccable taste for fashion and a fierce sense of independence, Bella became a fascinating figure in the community. As the summer of 2004 unfolded, Bella's life was filled with dreams and aspirations. She constantly envisioned a future brimming with success and adventure. Despite being 4 months pregnant, she remained determined to make her boutique thrive. Friends and family admired her unapologetic confidence, but little did they know that it would eventually lead to her untimely demise. To complicate matters further, Bella's own mother-in-law, Sophia, harbored a deep resentment towards her. Sophia, a woman known for her controlling nature, couldn't stand Bella's independent spirit. She saw her as a threat to the family's legacy and was determined to eliminate her from their lives. On that fateful night in June, Bella's life took a tragic turn. The details surrounding her murder were as chilling as they are perplexing. The investigation into her death would uncover a series of shocking revelations, shedding light on the dark secrets that lay beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic suburban community. In the quiet neighborhood of Pittsburgh, California, tragedy struck on a sunny day in June. Isabella "Bella" Sanderson, a vivacious 30-year-old boutique owner, met a gruesome end that would send shockwaves through the community. Bella was known for her impeccable taste and fierce independence. Her small clothing boutique was a local favorite, attracting fashion enthusiasts from all walks of life. She had a reputation for stirring up drama, with her unapologetic confidence and ambitious dreams of success and adventure. At the time of her death, Bella was 4 months pregnant, adding an even more heartbreaking layer to the already devastating story. On that fateful day, Bella's husband, Robert Sanderson Jr., made a horrifying discovery. The warmth of the sun was in stark contrast to the chilling scene that awaited him. As he approached his middle-class residence, fear and confusion washed over him. He stumbled upon the lifeless body of his beloved wife, her once vibrant spirit extinguished. The shock of the discovery was palpable. Robert, overwhelmed by grief, was unsure of how to process the gruesome scene before him. The police were immediately called to the scene, and the investigation into Bella's death began. In June of 2004, media outlets were quick to pick up on the tragedy. Local newspapers, such as the Pittsburgh Gazette, dedicated coverage to the case. Television news stations, like KGO Channel 7 News, aired special reports detailing the events surrounding Bella's murder. The community was captivated by the unfolding story, desperate for answers and justice. As investigators combed through the evidence, they discovered a complex web of relationships that would become the focal point of their investigation. The love triangle between Bella, her husband Robert, and his secret lover quickly became a central piece of the puzzle. The tension between these individuals, combined with the involvement of Bella's own mother-in-law, added an even darker twist to the already tragic tale. With each passing day, the details of Bella's untimely demise became more and more publicized. The community mourned the loss of a vibrant young woman, while simultaneously grappling with the shocking and disturbing nature of the crime. The investigation continued, fueled by the determination to bring justice to Bella and her unborn child. The swift arrival of the police at the scene of Bella Sanderson's tragic demise in June 2004 sent shockwaves through the quiet, middle-class neighborhood of Pittsburgh, California. Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez, the dedicated investigators assigned to the case, wasted no time in assessing the chilling crime scene. As they approached the serene surroundings where Bella's lifeless body lay, a sense of urgency filled the air. The investigators were met with a gruesome sight. Traces of blood stained the once peaceful neighborhood, serving as a stark reminder of the violence that had unfolded. The method of murder, 2 gunshot wounds to the chest, added an eerie layer of mystery to the already perplexing case. With a meticulous attention to detail, the police meticulously combed the area for any potential clues. Utilizing advanced forensic techniques, they gathered evidence that would prove crucial in piecing together the puzzle of Bella's untimely demise. Every inch of the crime scene was scrutinized, from the surrounding houses and streets to the smallest fragments of evidence. Local residents were interviewed, their statements providing valuable insights into the events leading up to Bella's tragic end. The investigators delved into Bella's personal life, exploring her relationships and potential motives for her murder. Rumors of a love triangle involving Bella's husband and her own mother-in-law began to circulate, adding a layer of complexity to the case. As the investigation progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. News outlets across picked up the story, captivated by the twists and turns of this real-life tragedy. The small clothing boutique owned by Bella became a focal point, with reporters flocking to the scene to capture the essence of the vibrant woman whose life had been cut short. In their pursuit of justice, Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez left no stone unturned. They consulted experts in ballistics, forensics, and psychology, hoping to gain further insights into the mind of the killer. The search for answers became a race against time, as the public demanded answers and Bella's loved ones sought closure. The initial focus of the investigation turned towards Robert Sanderson Jr., the husband of the late Bella Sanderson. Robert, a charming and influential figure in the community, was the owner of a local bike shop that had gained popularity among cycling enthusiasts in Contra Costa County. As the police delved deeper into the case, they sought to unravel the enigma surrounding Robert's potential involvement in the murder of his wife. Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez, the dedicated investigators assigned to the case, meticulously interrogated Robert. The room was tense, with the air heavy with anticipation as they probed for any signs of deceit or motive. Robert's demeanor fluctuated throughout the questioning, displaying a range of emotions that left the investigators both intrigued and suspicious. During the intense interrogation, Robert's responses were a mix of anger and calmness, further adding to the complexity of the case. The investigators were aware of his reputation for manipulation, and they were determined to uncover any hidden truths that lay beneath his charismatic facade. They delved into his personal life, exploring his relationship with Bella and any potential motives that could have driven him to commit such a heinous act. As the investigation progressed, the police discovered a series of text messages exchanged between Robert and a mysterious individual known only as MC. The messages hinted at a clandestine affair, raising questions about the nature of Robert's relationship with Marco Castrati, a regular at the bike shop. Marco, a prominent figure in the community and the owner of a renowned Italian restaurant, had been a big investor in Robert Jr.'s bike shop. With each passing day, the investigators grew more determined to crack the case wide open, bringing justice to the memory of Bella Sanderson. The small community of Pittsburgh was left reeling from the shocking events that had unfolded within its peaceful confines. As the investigation continued, the police painstakingly gathered evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. Sophia Sanderson, age 65, the mother of Robert Jr., became the focus of the investigation as the second suspect in the murder of Bella Sanderson. A woman of refined taste and extravagant lifestyle, Sophia was no stranger to the glitz and glamour of the luxurious life. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a web of secrets and hidden motives. As the police delved into Sophia's connections to the crime, they discovered a tangled web of financial straying. Despite her outward appearance of wealth and luxury and her pension as a retired nurse, Sophia was burdened by a mountain of credit card debt. Her extravagant spending habits had caught up with her, and she found herself in a desperate situation. It was during this time of financial turmoil that Bella's murder occurred. The police began to question whether Sophia's mounting debt had driven her to commit such a heinous act. They meticulously combed through her financial records, searching for any evidence that could link her to the crime. As they dug deeper, the investigators uncovered a series of suspicious transactions in the weeks leading up to the murder. Large sums of money had been withdrawn from Sophia's bank account, with no clear explanation as to where the funds had gone. The police traced these transactions to a secret offshore account, raising even more questions about Sophia's involvement in Bella's death. The investigation took a dramatic turn when the police discovered a hidden compartment in Sophia's closet. Inside, they found a collection of newspaper clippings detailing the scandalous affairs of wealthy individuals in the area. These clippings, meticulously organized and annotated, hinted at a secret side to Sophia's already dark life. The police theorized that Sophia had become obsessed with the lives of the rich and famous, using their scandals and misfortunes as inspiration for her own twisted game. They believed that Bella's murder was not only a means to protect her family's reputation, but also a way for Sophia to live out her own twisted fantasies. As the investigation continued, the police dug deeper into Sophia's past, uncovering a trail of deceit and manipulation. They discovered that she had a history of using her charm and cunning to manipulate those around her, bending them to her will. This revelation only fueled their suspicions of her involvement in Bella's murder. In the coming weeks, the police would delve further into Sophia's connections and unravel the truth behind Bella's tragic death, riding hard on the shocking twists and turns of the investigation. As the investigation into the tragic murder of Isabella "Bella" Sanderson intensified, the authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, determined to uncover the truth behind this heinous crime. Every detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was scrutinized in their pursuit of justice. One crucial piece of evidence that emerged was the discovery of 2 tickets to a matinee showing of the renowned musical Cats. These tickets, bearing the names of Bella's husband, Robert Sanderson Jr., and a man known as Diego, were found at the crime scene. The investigators immediately recognized the significance of this find, as it provided a potential lead in their quest to unravel the mystery surrounding Bella's untimely demise. The date on the tickets indicated that the fateful outing was planned for June of 2004. As the investigators delved deeper into the connection between Robert Jr. and Diego, they discovered that Diego was the older brother of Bella. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, raising questions about the nature of their relationship and the potential motives behind Bella's murder. Furthermore, the investigators meticulously examined the theater where the Cats' performance was scheduled to take place. The historic Fox Theater in downtown Oakland, known for its stunning architecture and grandeur, had been the chosen venue for this particular matinee. The theater's management cooperated fully with the authorities, providing access to surveillance footage and assisting in the identification of potential witnesses. As the authorities worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle surrounding Bella's murder, they remained steadfast in their commitment to uncover the truth. The discovery of the Cats' tickets had opened up a new avenue of investigation, shedding light on the intricate web of relationships and potential motives that surrounded this chilling crime. Diego Bosque, the older brother of Bella Sanderson, emerged as another suspect in the investigation. Diego, known for his fiery temper and unwavering loyalty, held deep suspicions about Bella's marriage to Robert Jr. and harbored a strong disdain for Sophia. However, the police uncovered shocking evidence that would send shockwaves through the community. During the course of their investigation, the police discovered secret, explicit text messages exchanged between Diego and Robert Sanderson Jr., Bella's husband. These messages revealed a clandestine sexual relationship between the two men, a relationship that had been kept hidden from everyone, including Bella. The messages were very graphic in nature and described late-night rendezvous in various parks around Contra Costa County. The revelation of this secret relationship sent shockwaves through the community, as it challenged the perception of loyalty and betrayal. Friends and family members were left dumbfounded, struggling to reconcile the image they had of Diego and Robert Jr. with the shocking reality that had been uncovered. The local media quickly picked up on the story, with headlines screaming about the scandalous affair that had emerged in the midst of Bella's murder investigation. The police, now faced with the task of unraveling the complex web of relationships surrounding Bella's death, intensified their interrogation of Diego. The third-grade vocabulary level was employed, ensuring that the questions were easily understood by all parties involved. Diego, torn between protecting his sister's memory and his own lover, was visibly shaken during the questioning. His anger and desperation were palpable as he attempted to navigate the treacherous waters of the investigation. As the investigation continued, the police delved deeper into the connection between Diego and Robert. They analyzed phone records, cross-referenced text messages, and interviewed acquaintances who might shed light on the nature of their relationship. The evidence was meticulously gathered, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in the pursuit of justice. The community of Pittsburgh, California, was left reeling from the shocking revelations that had come to light. The murder of Bella Sanderson had not only exposed a twisted love triangle, but had also shattered the illusion of a close-knit community. The once peaceful neighborhood now found itself at the center of a media frenzy, with reporters from local news outlets descending upon the area to cover the sensational story. The shocking truth behind Bella Sanderson's murder in June of 2004 was finally revealed, shedding light on a twisted plot that unfolded in the quiet city of Pittsburgh, California. After months of meticulous investigation, the police unraveled an intricate web of deception, leading to the arrest of Sophia Sanderson, the 65-year-old mother-in-law of the victim. Driven by a toxic combination of jealousy and pride, Sophia orchestrated a cunning plan to eliminate both her son's lover and his sister, her daughter-in-law. The motive behind this heinous act was rooted in Sophia's deep resentment towards Bella's intrusion into her family's affairs and her son's illicit sexual relationship with Diego Bosque, Bella's older brother. Sophia's desire to maintain control over her son, Robert Jr., and safeguard her family's reputation played a pivotal role in her decision to carry out this macabre scheme. With Diego stealing away her son for secret sex and Bella's pregnancy, threatening her son's financial support, Sophia saw no other way to protect her carefully constructed facade. The police uncovered a trail of evidence that pointed directly at Sophia's involvement in the murder. The discovery of a meticulously planned alibi, consisting of a fake doctor's appointment and a series of phone calls to create a false timeline, revealed the calculated nature of her actions. Additionally, surveillance footage from a nearby store captured Sophia purchasing a gun, the same weapon used to end Bella's life. As the authorities closed in on Sophia, her carefully constructed facade crumbled before her eyes. The shock and disbelief on her face as she was arrested mirrored the feelings of the community, who had known her as a respected member of society. As the community of Pittsburgh tries to make sense of this tragic event, the memory of Bella Sanderson will forever be etched in their minds. Her vibrant spirit and ambitious dreams will serve as a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk within the hearts of those closest to us. The courtroom was abuzz with anticipation as the trial of Sophia Sanderson, accused of orchestrating the murder of her son's lover and wife, reached its climax. District Attorney Tabitha Quasimodo, with her commanding presence and sharp legal mind, led the prosecution's case against Sophia. The defense, represented by attorney Ariel Cruz Roja, fought tirelessly to cast doubt on the evidence presented. The trial unfolded against the backdrop of a nation captivated by true crime stories. In the courtroom, attorney Quasimodo meticulously laid out the evidence against Sophia. She presented phone records showing suspicious conversations between Sophia and an unidentified individual on the day of the murder. The prosecution also introduced the murder weapon, a .45 caliber handgun, which was traced back to Sophia's possession. The ballistics expert testified that the bullets recovered from Bella's body matched those fired from the gun. To further strengthen their case, the prosecution called upon witnesses who had observed Sophia's erratic behavior leading up to the murder. A neighbor testified that they had seen Sophia lurking around Bella's boutique, casting a sinister shadow over the otherwise peaceful neighborhood. The defense, however, argued that these witnesses were unreliable and their testimonies should be dismissed. As the trial progressed, the courtroom was filled with tension and emotion. Bella's grieving family, clad in black, listened intently to every word uttered. The victim's friends, still grappling with the shock of their loss, sought solace in each other's presence. The media, hungry for sensational stories, swarmed the courthouse, capturing every moment for the evening news and front-page headlines. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Sophia Sanderson was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, sorrow, and closure. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the lives of all involved, forever altering the course of their futures. In the aftermath of the trial, true crime geeks debated the motives and psychology of Sophia, dissecting her actions and attempting to understand what drove her to commit such a heinous crime. The story of Bella Sanderson's murder became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath even the most seemingly idyllic lives. Following the conclusion of the trial, Robert Jr., Diego, and Sophia were left to grapple with the daunting task of moving forward. The events surrounding Bella's murder had forever altered their lives, leaving them to navigate a complex web of emotions and rebuild their shattered worlds. Robert Jr., once the charismatic owner of a bike shop, found himself at a crossroads. The trial had exposed the dark secrets of his past, including his illicit relationship with Diego. The revelation had left him questioning his own sexuality and struggling to come to terms with the consequences of his actions. With his reputation tarnished and his business suffering, Robert Jr. faced an uphill battle to regain the trust of his community. Diego, Bella's older brother, was consumed by guilt and remorse. His secret sexuality relationship with Robert had not only betrayed his sister, but also implicated him in the murder plot. The trial had laid bare his darkest secrets, leaving him isolated and ostracized from his family, who did not accept his sexuality. With no one to turn to, Diego found solace in therapy and support groups, working tirelessly to rebuild his life and find redemption. Sophia, the mastermind behind the murder plot, faced the harsh reality of her actions. The trial had shattered her carefully constructed facade, exposing her as a manipulative and calculating individual. Her once extravagant lifestyle had crumbled under the weight of her debt, leaving her in prison. With no one left to protect her, Sophia retreated into a life of isolation and regret. As the months turned into years, the wounds left by Bella's murder slowly began to heal. The victims' families, torn apart by grief, found solace in support groups and counseling. The community rallied around them, offering a shoulder to lean on and a listening ear. Slowly but surely, life in Pittsburgh returned to a semblance of normalcy. And thus, the twisted love triangle that ensnared Isabella Bella Sanderson came to a close. In the city of Pittsburgh, California, in June of 2004, a story of passion, betrayal, and tragedy unfolded. Bella's life was tragically cut short, leaving behind a community forever changed by the darkness that lurked within their midst. Jennifer Lee Trelly, a 34-year-old resident of Mesa, Arizona, was a dedicated and ambitious woman. In July of 2008, Jennifer's life seemed to be on track for success. She held the position of chief telemarketer at Credit Cards for Kids, an operation said to be, quote, committed to helping children build a secure financial future. Jennifer's unwavering dedication to her job made her a respected figure within the organization. Outside of work, Jennifer was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local homeless shelter, organizing food drives and fundraising events. Her selflessness and genuine care for others made her a beloved figure in Mesa. Jennifer's commitment to her community was even recognized by the local newspaper, the Mesa Tribune, which featured her in an article highlighting her efforts to make a positive impact. Beyond her professional and charitable life, Jennifer's warm-hearted nature extended to her family and friends. She cherished every moment spent with her loved ones, making sure to create lasting memories. Her positive outlook on life and determination to make a difference in the world made her a beacon of hope for those who knew her. But little did Jennifer know that her seemingly perfect life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. Jennifer's story takes an unexpected turn when she becomes suspicious of her husband's involvement in a secretive gym group. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she embarks on a journey to uncover the truth. Little did she know that this decision would lead her down a path filled with danger and intrigue. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the details surrounding Jennifer's life, her aspirations, and the events that transpired in the blisteringly hot Arizonan summer of 2008. Stay tuned for the shocking revelations that lie ahead. On a scorching summer day in July 2008, tragedy struck the peaceful suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona. Jennifer Lee Trelly, A 34-year-old woman known for her dedication and warm-hearted nature met a gruesome and untimely end within the walls of her own home. The details of this heinous crime sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents fearful and on edge. It was Jennifer's close friend, Stacy Brewer, who made the horrifying discovery. As she entered Jennifer's home that day, expecting to find her vibrant and full of life, she was instead met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Jennifer lay lifeless on the floor, her body bearing the brutal marks of over 30 stab wounds inflicted with a steak knife. The sheer violence and cruelty of the act sent shivers down Stacy's spine, leaving her overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. The authorities were immediately contacted, and a sense of urgency filled the air. As news of Jennifer's tragic fate spread, the community rallied together in grief and solidarity. Vigils were held, and heartfelt tributes poured in from friends, family, and even strangers who had been touched by Jennifer's kindness. The media, always hungry for sensational stories, descended upon Mesa, eager to uncover every detail and bring the truth to light. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of the unsolved crime hung heavy over the neighborhood. Fear and suspicion lingered in the air, casting a shadow over once trusting relationships. The community yearned for closure, for justice to be served, and for the memory of Jennifer Lee Trelly to be honored. The authorities wasted no time in responding to the distressing call made by Stacy Brewer that came in on that fateful July day in 2008. A team of dedicated police officers swiftly arrived at the scene, ready to unravel the mystery surrounding Jennifer Lee Trelly's brutal murder. Led by Detective Oliver Sequan, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for his tenacity and attention to detail, the police meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene. The once tranquil home in the suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona, now bore the chilling marks of a heinous crime. As Detective Kwan surveyed the scene, his eyes were immediately drawn to the bloodstains that marred the once pristine surroundings. The crimson trails seemed to tell a haunting story of the violence that had unfolded within her house. The once pristine surroundings were now stained with Jennifer's blood, a grim reminder of the brutal act that had taken place. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, lay discarded nearby, serving as a chilling testament to the violence inflicted upon her. Detective Thompson and his team employed a variety of tools and methods to gather evidence. They carefully collected fingerprints from various surfaces, dusted for DNA, and meticulously photographed the scene from every angle. The detectives also interviewed neighbors, hoping to gather any information that could lead them to the perpetrator. As the investigation progressed, the media began to take notice. Local news outlets, such as the Mesa Tribune and Channel 12 News, reported on the shocking murder that had rocked the community. The police delved into Jennifer's personal life, discovering that Jennifer had recently become suspicious of her husband's gym group, a tight-knit community known as Fit Life Warriors. The group, led by charismatic lifestyle guru Bert Hensley Brecht, had gained a reputation for their intense workouts and exclusive membership. As the summer of 2008 unfolded, the residents of Mesa anxiously awaited justice for Jennifer Lee Trelly. The pressure mounted on the police from people from all walks of life to solve the crime and bring closure to Jennifer's grieving loved ones. Devon Trelly, a 38-year-old man with a charming personality, found himself at the center of a chilling crime that left a quiet suburban neighborhood in Mesa, Arizona in shock. As the investigation into the murder of his wife, Jennifer Lee Trelly, unfolded, a dark secret began to emerge, threatening to unravel the lives of those involved. The police, determined to uncover the truth, focused their attention on Devon as the prime suspect. With his charismatic demeanor and ability to charm those around him, he had managed to maintain a facade of love and affection. However, beneath this seemingly loving exterior, a sinister side lay hidden. During the intense interrogation, Devon's emotions fluctuated between anger and an unsettling calmness. The detectives, armed with their questions and a desire for justice, probed into his possible motives. They delved into his personal life, searching for any signs of discontent or animosity within the marriage. As the investigation progressed, the police pieced together the events leading up to that fateful day in July 2008. They discovered that Jennifer had recently uncovered a secret about her husband's gym group, a group that Devon was deeply involved in. Whispers of illegal activities and connections to organized crime began to circulate within the investigation. The authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, leaving no stone unturned. They analyzed phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements, hoping to find a solid link to the crime. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, was carefully examined for fingerprints and DNA, providing crucial clues that would help unravel the truth. The weight of the investigation bore down on Devon, his every move scrutinized by both the police and the public. The once charming man now faced a storm of suspicion and doubt. Would the evidence be enough to bring justice for Jennifer's untimely demise? Stacy Brewer, a 36-year-old woman from Mesa, Arizona, found herself under the watchful eye of the authorities as a potential suspect in the tragic murder of her close friend, Jennifer Lee Trelly. Stacy, known for her outgoing personality and love for adventure, was an avid gym-goer and enjoyed exploring the great outdoors of Arizona. In July of 2008, when the murder took place, Stacy's life took an unexpected turn as she became entangled in a web of suspicion and scrutiny. As a Jungian dream analyst, Stacy prided herself on her ability to interpret dreams and uncover hidden meanings. She often shared her insights with friends and clients, helping them navigate the complexities of their subconscious minds. She also relied heavily on her spirit animal, an ostrich named Angela Reese Crosswind. But behind her fanciful and carefree facade, jealousy brewed within her towards Jennifer, who seemed to have it all: a successful career, a loving husband, and a seemingly perfect life. The police interrogated Stacy relentlessly, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They probed into her possible motives, scrutinizing her every word and reaction. The intensity of the investigation took a toll on Stacy, evoking a range of emotions from anger to a desperate calmness. During the interrogation, Stacy's mind raced with memories of her friendship with Jennifer. They had shared countless moments together, from their early morning workouts at the local gym to exploring the beautiful landscapes of Arizona. Stacy couldn't help but feel a pang of envy whenever Jennifer's achievements were celebrated, as if her own accomplishments paled in comparison. Stacy's life was turned upside down as she became the subject of public scrutiny. Her every move was dissected and analyzed by armchair detectives and gossip-hungry journalists. The weight of suspicion bore down on her, threatening to crush her spirit and tarnish her reputation. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the tragic murder of Jennifer Lee Trelly took an unexpected twist. The once respected workplace of Jennifer, Credit-Cart's 4 Kids, was revealed to be a deceitful company operating as a pyramid scheme, preying on innocent and vulnerable children. This revelation added a new layer of intrigue and possible motive to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. Credit-Cart's 4 Kids, a seemingly noble organization, purported to provide financial education for children. However, behind the facade of innocence, it was discovered that the company engaged in predatory practices, enticing children to obtain credit cards with exorbitant interest rates. These poor and vulnerable children were then subjected to relentless harassment as they struggled to pay off the staggering 45% interest rate imposed by the company. The revelation of this sinister scheme sent shockwaves through the community as parents and authorities grappled with the realization that such an exploitative operation had been operating right under their noses. The public demanded justice for the innocent victims ensnared in this web of deceit. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trelly's murder deepened, detectives began to explore the possible connection between her untimely demise and the fraudulent activities of Credit-Cart's 4 Kids. The police meticulously examined financial records, seeking any potential links between Jennifer and the company's downfall. They interviewed former employees, desperate to uncover any clues that could shed light on the motive behind her brutal slaying. Investigators speculated that Jennifer, being a dedicated and ambitious woman, may have stumbled upon the dark secrets of Credit-Cart's 4 Kids. Perhaps she had uncovered evidence of the company's illegal activities, putting her in grave danger. This theory raised questions about who stood to benefit from silencing her permanently. As the investigation continued, the police intensified their efforts to dismantle the fraudulent empire of Credit-Cart's 4 Kids. They collaborated with federal agencies, including the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to bring the perpetrators to justice and protect the innocent victims ensnared in this heartless scheme. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Treleady's tragic murder unfolded, another key figure emerged: Martin O'Hurley, her closest friend and co-worker at Credit Card's 4 kids. At just 24 years old, Martin was known for his quick thinking and unwavering loyalty towards Jennifer. However, beneath his friendly demeanor, a troubled past lurked, threatening to expose a side of him that no one could have anticipated. On the surface, Martin appeared to be an ordinary young man, dedicated to his work and always ready with a joke to lighten the mood. But as the police delved deeper into his life, they discovered a series of unsettling incidents that hinted at a darker side. Born and raised in Mesa, Arizona, Martin grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by the desert landscape that defined the region. His childhood was marked by hardship, as his parents struggled to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Martin excelled academically, earning a scholarship to attend Mesa High School. It was during his time at Mesa High that Martin's troubles began to surface. He fell in with a group of rebellious classmates, known locally as the Desert Punks. This tight-knit crew, notorious for their wild parties and reckless behavior, quickly became Martin's new social circle. Their influence led him down a path of minor criminal activity, including vandalism and petty theft. As the questioning intensified, it was revealed that Martin had been moonlighting as a prostitute, offering his services to male clients in the Mesa area. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, painting a picture of a man leading a double life. One of Martin's frequent customers turned out to be none other than Devon Trelly, Jennifer's husband. The police were astounded by this connection, as it added another layer of complexity to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. It raised questions about the dynamics between Martin, Jennifer, and Devon, and whether this illicit relationship played a role in Jennifer's untimely demise. The truth finally emerged, revealing Devon Trelly as the cold-blooded murderer. Devon, age 38, had been leading a double life, hiding his involvement with a secret gym group called Fit Life Warriors. This group, unbeknownst to the community, was exclusively for men and served as a male-only brothel/gay swingers club that would procure handsome male lovers for their members. This revelation shed new light on Devon's motive for the murder and exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community in Mesa, Arizona. The police, through diligent investigation, pieced together the evidence that linked Devon to Fit Life Warriors. They uncovered explicit messages exchanged between Devon and other members of the group, revealing a web of deceit and betrayal. It became apparent that Devon's involvement with Fit Life Warriors had become a source of conflict within his marriage to Jennifer. The discovery of Devon's secret life and his connection to Fit Life Warriors sent shockwaves through the community. Residents were left questioning the true nature of the seemingly perfect lives that surrounded them. As the police delved deeper into the connection between Devon and Fit Life Warriors, they uncovered a network of notable individuals who were part of this secret club. Interviews with club members revealed a tight-knit sex community that operated under a code of secrecy. The police worked tirelessly to gather information from these individuals, hoping to unravel the full extent of Devon's involvement and the motive behind Jennifer's murder. The arrest of Devon Trelly sent shockwaves through the community as the reality of a heinous crime committed in their midst became all too real. The community, still reeling from the revelations surrounding Fit Life Warriors, came together to support Jennifer's family and honor her memory. The impact of this tragic event would forever leave its mark on Mesa, Arizona, serving as a reminder that darkness can lurk behind even the most seemingly idyllic facades. The trial that followed Jennifer Lee Treleady's tragic murder in July 2008 brought the community together as they sought justice for the beloved woman whose life was brutally cut short. The courtroom was filled with tension and raw emotions as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each vying to sway the jury's decision. The prosecution, led by determined prosecutor Angela Koss, known for her track record of successful convictions, meticulously laid out the evidence against the prime suspect, Devon Trelly. They presented the jury with a compelling argument, weaving together a narrative that painted Devon as a man driven by secrets and betrayal. The prosecution called upon witnesses who testified to Devon's volatile temper and his connection to the murder weapon, a steak knife found in the Trelly household. The defense, represented by Cole Robbie, a skilled attorney renowned for his ability to cast doubt on the prosecution's claims, sought to challenge the evidence presented. They questioned the reliability of the witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. The defense argued that there was no concrete proof linking Devon to the crime and urged the jury to consider alternative theories. Throughout the trial, Jennifer's grieving family sat in the courtroom, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. They clung to the hope that justice would be served for their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Friends and supporters of Jennifer filled the gallery, their presence a testament to the impact she had on their lives. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Mesa Tribune, dedicated coverage to the trial, providing daily updates on the proceedings. Television news stations, including Channel 8 News, broadcasted reports from outside the courthouse, capturing the public's attention. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreperson stood and announced that Devon Trelly was found guilty of first-degree murder. The room erupted with a mix of relief and sorrow. As Jennifer's family and friends processed the weight of the decision, Devon was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a sense of closure for Jennifer's loved ones, knowing that the person responsible for her untimely death would be held accountable. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jennifer's memory lives on, not only in the hearts of her family and friends, but also in the collective consciousness of Mesa, Arizona. In the wake of the trial, the lives of those involved took a dramatic turn. Martin O'Hurley, Jennifer's best friend and co-worker, found solace in the support of his friends and family. He enrolled in a local community college, determined to pursue a degree in criminal justice. Inspired by the tireless efforts of the detectives who worked on Jennifer's case, Martin aspired to become a detective himself one day. Stacy Brewer, Jennifer's close friend, sought refuge in the healing power of nature. She embarked on a solo hiking trip through the picturesque landscapes of Sedona, Arizona. The breathtaking red rock formations and serene desert vistas provided solace and a sense of peace amidst the chaos that had enveloped her life. Stacy documented her journey on her blog, Wandering Spirit, where she shared her experiences and reflections with her growing community of followers. Devon Trelly, the cold-blooded murderer, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community, leaving a lasting impact on its residents. The media frenzy surrounding the case had subsided, but the scars remained. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, but the memory of Jennifer and the events surrounding her tragic death remained etched in the collective consciousness of the community. The impact of the case had forever altered the lives of those involved, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of justice. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we are reminded of the chilling events that unfolded in Mesa, Arizona in July 2008. Jennifer Lee Trelly's life was tragically cut short, exposing a web of secrets, deceit, and betrayal. This story serves as a haunting reminder that darkness can lurk within the seemingly ordinary, and that the pursuit of truth can unveil the most unsettling realities. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case. In the wealthy town of Norwalk, Connecticut, Barbara Brlo, a devoted stay-at-home mom and wife, age 36, dedicated her time to caring for her two children, Mikey and Bubbles, and supporting her husband, David Brlo. She took pride in her role as a homemaker, finding joy in her family. Barbara's dreams revolved around creating a loving and harmonious environment for her loved ones. Despite the challenges she faced in her personal life, Barbara maintained a positive outlook, trying to keep the peace in her family. Barbara was a woman of routine. Her days were filled with household chores, cooking delicious meals for her family, and tending to the needs of her children. She had a particular fondness for baking, spending hours in the kitchen perfecting her famous chocolate chip cookies. In March of 1988, Barbara's life took an unexpected turn. Rumors began to circulate in their small suburban neighborhood about a mysterious man who had recently moved to town. His name was Mark Cassavetes, a charismatic and enigmatic figure. Mark was known for his charm and good looks, which made him the center of attention wherever he went. Barbara's path crossed with Mark's when they both attended a local charity event. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and they soon found themselves entangled rumors in a passionate affair. Gossip of affair became the talk of the town, with whispers and obscene stories spreading like wildfire. Little did Barbara know that rumors of her possible affair would have dire consequences. The events that unfolded in the following months would shatter the tranquility of her suburban life and leave a lasting impact on the community. On the fateful morning of March 12, 1988, the quiet suburban neighborhood of Pinecrest Hills in Norwalk, Connecticut, was about to be shaken to its core. As the sun timidly peeked over the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the dew-covered lawns, a neighbor stumbled upon a scene straight out of a nightmare. Patty Myers, a middle-aged woman known for her friendly demeanor and love for gardening, had ventured out for her daily morning walk. As she strolled past the Brlo household, a sense of unease settled upon her. The usually bustling home, filled with the sounds of children's laughter and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, was eerily silent. Curiosity got the better of Patty, and she decided to investigate further. Approaching the front porch, she noticed the morning newspaper, untouched and abandoned. It struck her as odd, as Barbara Brlo was known for her punctuality and love for staying informed. An unsettling feeling crept up Patty's spine, and she hesitantly pushed open the front door. The air inside the house felt heavy, as if a storm was brewing. Patty cautiously made her way through the familiar rooms, her heart pounding in her chest. And then, she stumbled upon a sight that would haunt her for the rest of her days. In the pristine kitchen, where delicious meals were prepared with love, lay the lifeless body of Barbara Brlo. Her once vibrant eyes stared vacantly into the distance, forever frozen in a state of terror. Blood adorned the pristine white tiles, a stark contrast to the innocence that once permeated the room. Patty's hands trembled as she reached for the kitchen phone, hastily dialing emergency services. The voice on the other end of the line struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Barbara Brlo, a pillar of the community known for her warm and nurturing nature, had met a gruesome and untimely demise within the confines of her own home. News of the shocking discovery spread like wildfire through Pinecrest Hills. The tight-knit community, usually abuzz with gossip about the latest fashion trends or local bake sales, was now consumed by fear and uncertainty. The murder of Barbara Brlo had shattered their illusion of safety, leaving them vulnerable and searching for answers. As investigators descended upon the Brlo household, meticulously combing through every inch for clues, the residents of Pinecrest Hills held their breath. Who could have committed such a heinous act? Was it a random act of violence, or was there something more sinister at play? The Norwalk Police Department wasted no time in launching a thorough investigation into the heinous murder of Barbara Brlo. Detective Indra Romert and Detective Stuart Teamkill, seasoned investigators with a reputation for cracking even the toughest cases, were assigned to lead the inquiry. Arriving at the crime scene, the detectives were met with a chilling sight. The Brlo household, usually a place of warmth and love, had been transformed into a macabre tableau. The kitchen, where Barbara should have been preparing meals for her family, now bore the scars of a violent crime. Bloodstains, like dark omens, marred the pristine surfaces. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional creak of floorboards under the detectives' cautious steps. The investigators meticulously combed through the house, leaving no stone unturned. They carefully examined every inch of the crime scene, collecting evidence and piecing together the puzzle of Barbara's untimely demise. The walls echoed with the soft hum of their conversations as they discussed theories and brainstormed possible leads. As they sifted through the evidence, the detectives discovered a number of intriguing clues. A single bullet casing, gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights, hinted at the weapon used to snuff out Barbara's life. They also found a shattered vase, its shards scattered across the floor, suggesting a struggle had taken place. The detectives meticulously bagged and tagged each item, knowing that even the smallest detail could hold the key to unlocking the truth. Outside the Brlo household, the investigation expanded. Detective Romert and Detective Teamkill interviewed neighbors, hoping to gather any information that could shed light on the events leading up to the murder. They spoke to Patty Myers, the neighbor who had made the gruesome discovery and noted down her harrowing account. They also reached out to Mark Cassavetes, discovering that rumors of an affair were just that. As the detectives meticulously pieced together the evidence, the weight of the case hung heavy on their shoulders. The clock was ticking, and they knew that time was of the essence. As the chilling case of Barbara Braslow's murder unfolded, the spotlight turned towards her husband, David Braslow. At 40 years old, David was an accountant by profession, known for his charming demeanor and ambitious drive. On the surface, he appeared to be a loving and devoted spouse, but as the investigation deepened, a dark and sinister secret began to emerge. The police wasted no time in interrogating David, determined to uncover any possible motives for such a heinous act. They meticulously combed through his personal and professional life, seeking answers that would shed light on the tragedy that had befallen the Braslow family. During the interrogation, the detectives confronted David with evidence that contradicted his claims of innocence. They presented him with phone records that showed numerous late-night calls to a mysterious number traced back to a payphone outside a local diner. The detectives also discovered a hidden compartment in David's car containing a stack of love letters addressed to a woman named Karen, a colleague at his workplace. As the pressure mounted, David's calm facade began to crumble. The once charming man grew visibly agitated, his voice trembling as he vehemently denied any involvement in his wife's murder. However, his attempts to protect his own interest became increasingly transparent to the seasoned detectives. The investigation took an unexpected turn when a witness came forward, claiming to have seen David arguing with Barbara at a local bar just days before her death. The witness, also named Karen, recalled hearing heated exchanges between the couple, with David's voice filled with anger and frustration. This revelation added another layer of suspicion to David's already shaky alibi. As the investigation into David Braslow continued, the detectives dug deeper into his financial records, uncovering a series of questionable transactions. They discovered that David had been embezzling funds from his workplace, a prestigious accounting firm in downtown Norwalk. This revelation painted a picture of a man desperate to cover his tracks, willing to go to extreme lengths to maintain his facade of success. The investigation into the murder of Barbara Braslow took a startling turn when another person of interest emerged, Leanne Portmanteau, the Braslow family's babysitter and a senior at the local high school. At just 18 years old, Leanne was known for her youthful innocence and naive charm. However, beneath her seemingly innocent facade lurked a not-so-secret romantic obsession for David Braslow, Barbara's husband. Leanne had been babysitting for the Braslow family for over a year, developing a close bond with Barbara and the children, Mikey and Bubbles. She idolized Barbara, admiring her nurturing nature and the loving environment she had created for her family. But it was David who captured Leanne's attention, fueling her dreams of one day becoming his bride. As the investigation unfolded, detectives discovered a series of secret love letters written by Leanne to David, expressing her deep affection and desire for him. These letters painted a vivid picture of a young girl infatuated with an older man, yearning for a love that seemed unattainable. The detectives carefully analyzed the letters, searching for clues that could link Leanne to the murder of Barbara. Detective Indra Romert and Detective Stuart Teamkill delved deeper into Leanne's background, interviewing her friends, teachers, and acquaintances. They discovered that Leanne had become increasingly jealous of Barbara, viewing her as an obstacle standing in the way of her romantic fantasies. Friends recalled Leanne's obsession with true crime stories and her fascination with cases involving love triangles, often discussing them with a morbid curiosity. The detectives also uncovered evidence that Leanne had been researching firearms and their potential effects on the human body. They found a stack of magazines, including a March 1988 issue of True Crime Monthly, which featured an article on infamous murder cases. This discovery raised suspicions about Leanne's intentions and her possible involvement in Barbara's murder. Furthermore, witnesses reported seeing Leanne near the Braslow household on the day of the crime. One neighbor, Mrs. Karen Johnson, stated that she saw Leanne lurking around the property, peering through the windows with an intense gaze. Another witness claimed to have seen Leanne leaving the area in a hurry, her face flushed and her hands trembling. The police, now armed with substantial evidence and witness testimonies, brought Leanne in for questioning. The detectives confronted her with the love letters, the magazines, and the witness accounts. Initially, Leanne denied any involvement in Barbara's murder, insisting that her feelings for David were harmless and that she would never harm Barbara. However, as the detectives pressed her further, Leanne's composure began to crumble, revealing a young girl trapped in a web of obsession and desperation. The investigation into the murder of Barbara Broslow took a surprising twist with the emergence of a new suspect. Alex Bruce Coachman, a 17-year-old boy and the son of the Broslow family's neighbor, became a person of interest in this chilling case. Known for his nosy and intrusive behavior, Alex had a troubled history with the Broslow family. Alex's obsession with Leanne Portmanteau, the Broslow family's babysitter and his classmate at the local high school, was no secret. He had broken into the Broslow family home on multiple occasions, driven by an intense infatuation with Leanne. But it was his deep-seated resentment towards Barbara that made him a potential suspect in her murder. The police interrogated Alex, hoping to uncover his motive for such a heinous act. As the questions intensified, Alex's anger and frustration became evident. He struggled to maintain his calm facade, revealing a young man consumed by jealousy and desperation. It was discovered that Alex had been keeping a disturbing collection of newspaper clippings and photographs of Barbara. These items were found hidden in a secret compartment in his bedroom, providing a glimpse into the depths of his obsession. The clippings included articles about Barbara's involvement in the local community, her role as a dedicated mother, and her close relationship with her husband, David. Further investigation revealed that Alex had been following Barbara's every move, documenting her daily routines and interactions. He had even gone as far as to purchase a camera with a telephoto lens, allowing him to capture intimate moments from a distance. This unsettling behavior painted a disturbing picture of a young man fixated on Barbara, viewing her as a threat to his own fated lover, Leanne. As the investigation continued, the police uncovered evidence linking Alex to the crime scene. Fingerprints found on a kitchen knife matched Alex's, raising suspicions of his involvement in the murder. Additionally, witnesses reported seeing Alex in the vicinity of the Broslow household on the day of the crime. The police diligently pursued every lead, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for justice. As the case gained media attention, the community was gripped by fear and disbelief. The quiet suburb of Norwalk, Connecticut, was now at the center of a shocking crime that had shattered the illusion of safety. In a shocking twist of events, the true culprit behind the heinous murder of Barbara Broslow was finally revealed to be none other than her own husband, David Broslow. The police investigation, led by Norwalk Police Detective Indra Romert and Detective Stuart Teamkill, meticulously unraveled the web of deceit and betrayal that had engulfed the Broslow family. Driven by a toxic combination of jealousy and greed, David had orchestrated a sinister plot to end his wife's life and frame an innocent teenager, Alex Bruce Coachman, for the crime. His motive? To escape the confines of his unhappy marriage and start a new life with the family's babysitter, Leanne Portmanteau, who had become his accomplice in this chilling saga. The evidence against David was overwhelming. Through meticulous forensic analysis, the police were able to connect him to the murder weapon, a .38 caliber revolver found hidden in the attic of their suburban home. The gun, traced back to a local pawn shop, had been purchased by David just weeks before the crime took place. The bullet casings recovered from the crime scene matched those fired from the weapon, leaving no doubt as to David's guilt. But it wasn't just the physical evidence that sealed David's fate. The police also uncovered a plot between him and Leanne, detailing their plans to carry out the murder and deceive the authorities. As news of David's and Leanne's arrest spread throughout the community, shock and disbelief rippled through the quiet streets of Norwalk. The local media, hungry for a sensational story, descended upon the town, their cameras capturing the anguish and bewilderment etched on the faces of neighbors and friends. The aftermath of this tragic event left the Broslow family shattered and scarred. Barbara's children, Mikey and Bubbles, were forced to confront the harsh reality that their father, the man they once idolized, was capable of such evil. The community rallied around them, offering support and solace during this difficult time. The trial of David Broslow, the man responsible for the brutal murder of his wife Barbara, captivated the area as it unfolded in the spring of 1988. The courtroom, located in the heart of Norwalk, Connecticut, buzzed with anticipation as the prosecution and defense presented their cases. District Attorney Tom Valligance, a seasoned prosecutor known for his meticulous attention to detail, painted a vivid picture of David's motives and the calculated nature of the crime. He meticulously laid out the evidence, including the testimonies of neighbors who had heard heated arguments between David and Barbara in the months leading up to her murder. Defense attorney Michael Stevens, a charismatic lawyer with a reputation for his persuasive arguments, fought vigorously to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. He questioned the reliability of witness testimonies, suggesting that they were influenced by media coverage and the desire for justice. Stevens argued that there was no concrete evidence linking David to the crime, and that the investigation had failed to explore other possible suspects. The trial was a roller coaster of emotions for the victim's family. Barbara's parents sat stoically in the courtroom, their eyes filled with tears as they listened to the harrowing details of their daughter's final moments. Mikey and Bubbles, Barbara's children, clung to their grandparents for support, their innocence shattered by the cruel reality of their mother's murder. As the trial reached its climax, the jury retired to deliberate. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the nation waited with bated breath for the verdict. After several hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous decision: guilty. David Brlo, the man who had meticulously planned and executed his wife's murder and Leanne Portmanteau, his accomplice and lover, were sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a mix of relief and grief to the victim's family. While they found solace in the fact that justice had been served, the pain of losing Barbara would forever linger. The community of Norwalk, still reeling from the shock of the murder, found some closure in the knowledge that the person responsible would be held accountable for his actions. In the aftermath of the trial, the Brlo case became a cautionary tale, reminding us of the dark underbelly that can lurk behind the facade of suburban tranquility. It served as a stark reminder that evil can reside in the most unexpected places, tearing apart families and shattering lives. After the gripping trial that captivated the area, life slowly began to return to a semblance of normalcy for those involved in the tragic murder of Barbara Brlo. Leanne Portmanteau, the teenage babysitter who was caught up in the web of deceit and found herself in prison, found solace in the support of her family and friends. Leanne's dreams of a future with David Brlo were shattered, and she realized the extent of his manipulation and deceit. She distanced herself from the dark memories of the past, immersing herself in her studies and extracurricular activities. With the guidance of her prison counselor, she sought therapy to help process the trauma she had endured. As for Alex Bruce Coachman, the troubled young neighbor who had harbored an unhealthy obsession with Leanne, he faced legal consequences for his intrusive behavior. The court-mandated counseling sessions aimed to address his deeply rooted issues and provide him with the necessary tools to rebuild his life. The community rallied around Alex, offering support and understanding as he worked towards redemption. As the years passed, the wounds slowly healed, but the scars remained. The Brlo family continued to honor Barbara's memory through acts of kindness and charitable donations. They established the Barbara Brlo Memorial Fund, which provided financial assistance to local families facing hardships. The fund became a symbol of hope and resilience in the face of tragedy. And so, we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files. The story of Barbara Braslo's tragic murder serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly idyllic lives. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating tale of mystery and intrigue. Our unfortunate victim is Lacy Cavalcante, a vibrant and outgoing 23-year-old woman. Lacy, originally from Newark, New Jersey, had relocated to Medford, Oregon to escape a difficult family life. Her father's sentence for 75 years in prison for involvement with the mafia had forced her to leave everything behind and start anew in this quaint town nestled in the Pacific Northwest. Lacy found employment as a waitress at Sherry's Cafe and Pies, a popular chain of diners prevalent in the Pacific Northwest during that time. With its cozy ambience and delectable pies, Sherry's Cafe and Pies had become a favorite spot in Medford for locals and tourists alike. Lacy's dedication and hard work had earned her a commendable reputation among the cafe's patrons. However, behind Lacy's professional success, her personal life was filled with drama and intrigue. Lacy's magnetic personality drew the attention of many suitors, but it was her involvement with these two individuals that captivated the imagination. Her fiery personality. She found herself entangled in two separate love affairs, each with its own complexities. The first affair involved a married man, David Cathcart, a 42-year-old man. This clandestine relationship had been ongoing for several months, and the secrecy surrounding it added fuel to the already fiery passion between Lacy and David. The second affair was even more scandalous. Lacy had become romantically involved with a high school cheerleader, Tracy Gartell, an 18-year-old senior. This forbidden love affair had not yet caught the attention of the local gossip mongers, as its revelation would have defied societal norms and shocked the conservative community of Medford. As we delve deeper into this gripping true crime case, we will uncover the intricate web of relationships and the events involved in Lacy's tragic demise. On a sunny afternoon in June 1987, the small community of Medford, Oregon was rocked by a shocking and brutal crime. Lacy Cavalcante, a vibrant 23-year-old woman with a complicated past, met a tragic end in her own apartment. The discovery of her lifeless body sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community, leaving everyone wondering who could have committed such a heinous act. It was on that fateful day, June 22, 1987, that Lacy's life was tragically cut short. Her lifeless body was discovered in the bathroom of her apartment by a close friend, Gina Houseman. Gina, who had been visiting Lacy, was overcome with shock and fear upon making the gruesome discovery. She wasted no time in contacting the authorities, her voice trembling as she described the horrifying scene. The Medford Police Department swiftly responded to the call, cordoning off the area and launching a thorough investigation. The crime scene was meticulously examined for any evidence that could lead to the identification of the perpetrator. Detectives interviewed neighbors, friends, and colleagues, hoping to uncover any leads that could shed light on the motive behind this senseless act of violence. As news of Lacy's murder spread throughout the community, local residents were gripped with fear and disbelief. The once peaceful town of Medford found itself thrust into the spotlight of a real-life crime drama. The case garnered attention from local media outlets, who covered every development with a keen interest. In the coming days, the police would work tirelessly to unravel the mysteries surrounding Lacy's death. The search for answers would take them down a winding path of secrets and deceit, as they delved into the lives of those closest to the victim. The police, headed by Detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, swiftly responded to the distressing discovery of Lacy Cavalcante's lifeless body in her apartment bathroom on June 22, 1987. The small city of Medford, Oregon was shaken to its core by this chilling and calculated act of violence. Upon arrival, the officers were greeted by a harrowing scene. The warm and sunny weather outside contrasted sharply with the bloodstains that marred the bathroom floor. It was immediately apparent that Lacy had met a tragic end, having been shot to death. With a sense of urgency, Detective Johnson and Officer Parker meticulously combed through the crime scene, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. They carefully collected fingerprints, blood samples, and any other potential leads that could shed light on the events leading up to Lacy's untimely demise. The investigation was not limited to the confines of the crime scene. The dedicated officers reached out to Sherry's Cafe and Pies, where Lacy had been employed as a successful waitress. They interviewed her co-workers and regular customers, hoping to uncover any information that could prove crucial to solving the case. In their pursuit of justice, the police also sought the assistance of the local community. They appealed to Medford residents, urging them to come forward with any information, no matter how insignificant it may seem. The case quickly captured the attention of the media, with newspapers such as the Oregonian and the Mail Tribune publishing headlines that gripped the public's attention. As the investigation progressed, the officers meticulously documented their findings, creating a detailed timeline of events leading up to Lacy's murder. They cross-referenced witness statements, analyzed phone records, and reviewed surveillance footage from nearby establishments, hoping to catch a glimpse of the perpetrator. Days turned into weeks, and the community anxiously awaited news of a breakthrough in the case. The investigation would take unexpected twists and turns, revealing shocking secrets and hidden motives. Medford would never be the same again, forever marked by the tragic events of that fateful June day. David Cathcart,
a 42-year-old local business owner who had been romantically involved with the victim, Lacy Cavalcante, emerged as one of the primary suspects in this chilling murder case that rocked the small community of Medford, Oregon in June of 1987. Described as a man of wealth and influence, Cathcart possessed a magnetic charm that had captivated many in his social circle. However, behind his polished facade lay a dark and deceitful nature that had begun to unravel as the investigation unfolded. The police, led by the diligent detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, focused their attention on Cathcart, delving into his possible motives and unraveling the intricate web of his relationship with the deceased. Interviews with friends and acquaintances revealed a complex and tumultuous affair that had ensnared both Cathcart and Cavalcante. As the investigation progressed, the police discovered a trove of evidence that pointed to Cathcart's possible involvement in the crime. They meticulously examined phone records, uncovering numerous late-night calls between the suspect and the victim in the weeks leading up to the murder. Witnesses also reported seeing Cathcart near the victim's apartment building on the day of the crime. Adding to the mounting suspicion, the police interrogated Cathcart intensively, employing a combination of psychological tactics and evidence-based questioning. His responses ranged from vehement denial to angry outbursts, with occasional attempts to deflect blame onto others. However, the investigators remained steadfast, determined to uncover the truth behind this heinous act. In their pursuit of justice, the police also reached out to the public for assistance. They released a statement to the local media, urging anyone with information related to the case to come forward. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure on Cathcart intensified. The media spotlight grew brighter, shining a harsh light on his every move. The once charismatic figure found himself thrust into the center of a storm, with public opinion teetering between curiosity and condemnation. Tracy Gartell, an 18-year-old high school cheerleader, emerged as a person of interest in the murder investigation of Lacy Cavalcante. Tracy, a student at Medford High School, was known for her bubbly personality and her involvement in various extracurricular activities. She was a popular figure among her peers, often seen leading the cheerleading squad during football games and participating in school events. However, beneath Tracy's cheerful demeanor, a darker side was uncovered. The police began to suspect that Tracy's involvement with Lacy went beyond a simple love affair. They believed that Tracy's fear of her secret relationship being exposed might have driven her to commit a heinous act. During the interrogation, Tracy's emotions were on full display. She oscillated between anger, fear, and confusion. Her face flushed with frustration as she vehemently denied any involvement in Lacy's murder. However, her body language betrayed her nervousness as she fidgeted with her fingers and avoided eye contact with the detectives. Detective Janet Johnson, a seasoned investigator with an impressive track record, skillfully probed Tracy for answers. She asked about Tracy's relationship with Lacy, trying to uncover any potential motives or conflicts that could have led to the tragic event. Tracy's responses were evasive, often deflecting the questions or providing vague and contradictory explanations. As the interrogation intensified, Detective Johnson presented Tracy with the evidence gathered from the crime scene. The blood-stained bathroom floor, the bullet casings, and the fingerprints found at the scene were all meticulously laid out before Tracy. The weight of the evidence seemed to bear down on her, causing her previously confident facade to crumble. Tracy's demeanor shifted from anger to fear as she realized the gravity of the situation. The police had pieced together a timeline of events, placing Tracy near the scene of the crime on the day of the murder. Witnesses had reported seeing her in the vicinity of Lacy's apartment building, raising suspicions about her involvement. The investigation into Tracy's background revealed a troubled past. The pressure to maintain her popularity and status within the high school social hierarchy weighed heavily on her. The fear of her secret affair becoming public knowledge, something that would destroy her reputation in this conservative community, seemed to have pushed her to the edge. The investigation was far from over, but Tracy's involvement in the murder case had become a focal point. The detectives would continue to dig deeper, uncovering more details and pursuing justice for Lacy Cavalcante. As the investigation into the murder of Lacy Cavalcante intensified, a breakthrough moment occurred when the police stumbled upon a hidden stash of letters in the office of David Cathcart, one of the primary suspects.
The discovery of these letters sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Medford, Oregon, as their contents revealed a web of manipulation and deceit that few could have imagined. The date was June 27, 1987, a cloudy and overcast day that matched the somber mood of the investigation. Detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, leading the charge in solving this heinous crime, meticulously combed through David Cathcart's office, hoping to find any clue that could shed light on Lacy's murder. As they sifted through stacks of papers and files, their eyes fell upon a seemingly innocuous wooden box tucked away in a corner. Opening the box, the detectives were greeted by a trove of letters, each one meticulously preserved with a sense of secrecy. The letters, written in Lacy's elegant handwriting, painted a picture of a woman caught in a dangerous game of love and manipulation. In these missives, apparently written to herself, Lacy detailed her tumultuous affairs with both David Cathcart and Tracy Gartell, the high school cheerleader who had also become entangled in her web of deceit. The letters revealed a calculated plan, carefully orchestrated by Lacy herself, to pit her two lovers against each other. She played them like puppets, manipulating their emotions and desires to suit her own twisted agenda of a sordid sexual competition. The extent of her control over these two individuals was both chilling and disturbing. As news of the letters spread, the community of Medford was left reeling. The local newspaper, the Medford Tribune, ran front-page headlines proclaiming love and deceit unraveled. Lacy's letters exposed dark secrets. The town's residents, already shocked by the brutal murder of Lacy, now found themselves grappling with the realization that the victim they thought they knew had a hidden side. The police, armed with this newfound evidence, intensified their investigation into David Cathcart and Tracy Gartell. They sought to uncover the truth behind Lacy's death and bring the puppet master to justice. In the relentless pursuit of justice, the investigation into the tragic murder of Lacy Cavalcante took an unexpected turn as the focus shifted to a seasoned private investigator named Michael Hampy. Hampy, known for his reputation as a truth seeker, had been hired by none other than Rebecca Cathcart, the wife of David Cathcart, one of the primary suspects in this chilling case. The police, driven by their commitment to uncovering the truth, meticulously interrogated Hampy, delving into his possible motives and his role in the murder. Hampy, a man of calm demeanor, stood firmly in his innocence, maintaining his dedication to uncovering the truth behind Lacy's untimely demise. During the intense questioning, Hampy revealed that his involvement in the case stemmed from Rebecca Cathcart's suspicions about her husband's extramarital affair with Lacy. The discovery of this affair had sent shockwaves through the Cathcart household, prompting Rebecca to seek the services of a private investigator to uncover the truth. Hampy, armed with his intuition and a steadfast commitment to his profession, embarked on a thorough investigation. He meticulously combed through phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements, leaving no stone unturned in his quest to uncover the truth. As the investigation progressed, Hampy stumbled upon a series of incriminating letters hidden in David Cathcart's office. These letters, penned by Lacy herself, revealed a web of manipulation and deceit, a sexual competition she had created that had ensnared the lives of those involved. The letters provided a chilling glimpse into the mind of a master manipulator, leaving the police astounded by the depth of deception. In his pursuit of justice, Hampy collaborated closely with Detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, sharing his findings and insights. Together, they meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots between the suspects and the evidence. As the investigation into Lacy Cavalcante's murder continued, the police, armed with the newfound evidence and Hampy's unwavering determination, inched closer to unraveling the truth. With each passing day, the web of deceit surrounding this case began to unravel, revealing a shocking climax. In a stunning turn of events, David Cathcart, the lover of the late Lacy Cavalcante, accused his own wife, Rebecca Cathcart, of orchestrating the murder that rocked the community in June of 1987. The small city was left reeling as the truth behind this chilling crime came to light. The investigation took an unexpected turn when David Cathcart, a 42-year-old influential figure in the community, revealed the dark secrets hidden within his seemingly perfect marriage. In a dramatic confrontation, David claimed that his wife, Rebecca, had been manipulating him for years, using him as a pawn in her sinister quest for power and control. In a press conference set up outside of his sizable house, he accused his wife with the memorable words, "My wife is the puppet master." The police, armed with this shocking revelation, meticulously gathered evidence against Rebecca Cathcart. They uncovered a motive that sent shockwaves through the community, a desire to protect her own reputation in Medford's social scene and to salvage her seemingly perfect marriage. Detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, leading the investigation, worked tirelessly to gather evidence that would support David's claims. They meticulously combed through the couple's financial records, phone records, and personal belongings, searching for any piece of evidence that would link Rebecca to the murder. Their efforts paid off when they discovered a hidden stash of letters in David Cathcart's office. These letters, meticulously saved by Rebecca, revealed a web of manipulation and deceit that left the investigators astounded. The letters detailed Rebecca's plan to murder Lacy Cavalcante, her husband's mistress and the woman who threatened to expose her secrets. The police wasted no time in arresting Rebecca Cathcart, leaving her stunned by the swift turn of events. The evidence against her was overwhelming, leaving little doubt in the minds of the investigators. The victim's family, already devastated by their loss, was left in disbelief as they struggled to comprehend the sinister truth that had been lurking beneath the surface. The trial that followed the shocking murder of Lacy Cavalcante was a highly emotional and closely watched affair. The prosecution, led by attorney Lawson Chambers, meticulously built a compelling case against Rebecca Cathcart, the accused mastermind behind the murder plot. Chambers, known for his tenacity and unwavering pursuit of justice, presented a wealth of evidence to support the charges. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was filled with tension and raw emotions. The victim's family, friends, and members of the community anxiously awaited the verdict, hoping for closure and justice for Lacy. The defense, represented by attorney Robert P. Rothbury, fought fiercely to protect Rebecca's innocence, arguing that the evidence against her was circumstantial and insufficient. During the trial, the prosecution called a series of witnesses to the stand, including Detective Janet Johnson and Officer Linda Parker, who had led the initial investigation. They testified about the meticulous gathering of evidence and the discovery of the hidden stash of letters in David Cathcart's office, which revealed Rebecca's manipulation and deceit. The defense, on the other hand, attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. They called several character witnesses who testified to Rebecca's good standing in the community and her seemingly perfect marriage to David Cathcart. They argued that the evidence against Rebecca was weak and that there could be other plausible explanations for the crime.
The jury, consisting of 12 individuals carefully selected for their impartiality, deliberated for several days. Their task was not an easy one, as the evidence presented was complex and required careful consideration. Finally, on a tense Friday afternoon, the verdict was delivered. Rebecca Cathcart was found guilty of orchestrating the murder of Lacy Cavalcante. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, tears, and disbelief. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the lives of the victim's friends and family, forever altering their perception of the world. The sentencing, however, left some divided. Rebecca Cathcart was sentenced to only 6 years in prison, a decision that sparked controversy and debate. Some felt that the punishment was too lenient given the severity of the crime and the manipulation involved. Others believed that justice had been served as the evidence against Rebecca was not as concrete as in other cases. Following the dramatic conclusion of the trial, the lives of those involved in the case took unexpected turns. David Cathcart, once a wealthy and influential man, found himself divorced and estranged from his former wife, Rebecca Cathcart. The scandalous affair and subsequent murder had shattered the illusion of his seemingly perfect life. David, now a broken man, retreated from the public eye, seeking solace in the quiet corners of his own remorse. Tracy Gartell, the high school cheerleader entangled in a love affair, faced a difficult road to redemption. Her once promising future was marred by the scandal, and she struggled to regain her footing. The small town of Medford, known for its tight-knit community, watched as Tracy attempted to rebuild her life, facing the judgment and whispers of her peers. The scars left by her involvement in the affair served as a constant reminder of the consequences of her actions. As the years passed, the small community of Medford slowly moved on from the shocking events of June 1987. The local Sherry's Cafe and Pies, where Lacy had worked, became a symbol of the tragedy that had unfolded, forever etched in the memories of the townspeople. The wounds left by the events of June 1987 may have healed, but the scars remained, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of seeking justice. And so concludes our episode of True Crime Case Files. This chilling tale of manipulation, deceit, and murder serves as a reminder that darkness can lurk behind the most seemingly perfect facades.
Twins Brittany and Bethany Ingretza, both 25 years old, were known for their vibrant personalities and dreams. Brittany, a nurturing and compassionate kindergarten teacher, always put others' needs before her own. Bethany, on the other hand, was a creative soul, passionate about her music and spending hours composing and playing her guitar. She was the driving force behind her band, Polka Threat, which blended traditional polka music with indie rock. Unfortunately, like many in their dead-end small Midwestern town, to make ends meet they had to moonlight as strippers under the names Richie Rich and Dennis the Menace. The town of Marengo, Illinois, nestled in the heart of McHenry County, was a close-knit community with a population of just over 7,500 residents. Known for its picturesque landscapes and historic downtown, Marengo seemed like the epitome of small-town charm. The local newspaper, the Marengo Gazette, covered the town's happenings, from high school football games to the annual Pumpkin Festival, which drew visitors from neighboring towns. September of 2006 marked a turning point in the lives of the Ingretza sisters. They had dreams of escaping the confines of their small town, frequently called by the twins the most boring place on earth, and pursuing their passions on a larger stage. Brittany had been saving up money to move to Chicago and enroll in a prestigious teaching program, while Bethany had her sights set on recording an album with Polka Threat. However, their dreams were overshadowed by the harsh reality of their financial struggles. Moonlighting as strippers at the local club, the Velvet Lounge, was a secret they kept hidden from their friends and family. The club, located on Main Street, was a dimly lit establishment known for its late-night entertainment. It was a place where the town's secrets were whispered and forgotten, a sanctuary for those seeking an escape from their mundane lives. We will delve deeper into the events leading up to the heinous crime that shocked the town of Marengo. Stay tuned for more revelations and twists in this tragic tale. On a crisp and cool September day in 2006, the small town of Marengo, Illinois, situated just an hour away from the bustling city of Chicago, was about to be shaken to its core. It was a town where everyone knew everyone, where doors were left unlocked, and crime was something that happened in distant cities or on the evening news. But on that fateful day, Marengo would become the backdrop for a chilling crime that would leave its residents in shock and disbelief. Coral James, a concerned neighbor, had grown worried after not seeing the vibrant and outgoing Ingretza twins, Brittany and Bethany, for several days. She decided to take matters into her own hands and went over to their apartment to check on them. Little did she know that what she would find inside would haunt her for the rest of her days. As Coral stepped into the apartment, a sense of unease settled over her. The air was heavy, and an eerie silence hung in the rooms. She made her way to the bathroom, and there, in the cold porcelain bathtub, she discovered the lifeless bodies of Brittany and Bethany. The sight that greeted her was nothing short of horrifying. The twins' hands were tightly bound behind their backs, and the marks on their necks hinted at a brutal strangulation. The room was filled with an overwhelming sense of tragedy, as if the very walls were mourning the loss of these vibrant young women. The news quickly spread throughout the town, and shockwaves reverberated through the close-knit community. On that fateful September day in 2006, the small town of Marengo, Illinois was shaken to its core by the gruesome discovery of the lifeless bodies of twin sisters, Brittany and Bethany Ingretza. The police, led by Detectives Sanderson and Ranger, arrived swiftly at the crime scene, determined to unravel the mystery behind this heinous crime. As they entered the apartment, a chilling sight greeted them. The once cozy living space had been transformed into a scene of chaos and despair. Furniture was overturned, belongings scattered haphazardly, and the air was heavy with an eerie silence. It was clear that a violent struggle had taken place within these walls. The detectives meticulously combed through every inch of the apartment, searching for any clue that could shed light on the motive and identity of the killer. They carefully collected fibers, fingerprints, and any other trace evidence that might hold the key to this tragic puzzle. In their search for answers, the detectives turned to the twins' personal belongings. They examined Brittany's kindergarten classroom, where colorful drawings and handwritten notes from her young students adorned the walls. They explored Bethany's music studio, filled with guitars, amplifiers, and stacks of sheet music. The detectives couldn't help but wonder if these passions and connections to the outside world held any significance in the investigation. Outside the apartment, the detectives spoke to neighbors and witnesses, hoping to gather any information that could lead them closer to the truth. They diligently questioned those who had seen or heard anything unusual in the days leading up to the discovery of the bodies. The detectives also reached out to local businesses, searching for surveillance footage that might provide a glimpse into the last moments of the twins' lives. As the investigation unfolded, the media frenzy surrounding the case grew. Local newspapers, such as the Marengo Tribune, dedicated coverage to the shocking crime. Chicagoland's best television news stations, like WGN and ABC7, aired reports urging viewers to come forward with any information they might have. Days turned into weeks, and the detectives tirelessly pursued every lead that came their way. They collaborated with forensic experts, consulted with renowned criminal profilers, and even reached out to the FBI for assistance. The case became a haunting presence in the town of Marengo, with whispers of the twins' tragic fate echoing through the streets. The investigation into the tragic deaths of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza took a significant turn when the police focused their attention on Darren Kapa, a 28-year-old mechanic and Brittany's former boyfriend. Darren's turbulent relationship with Brittany, combined with his history of possessiveness and stalking, made him a prime suspect in this heinous crime. Darren's obsession with Brittany began after their breakup, and he struggled to accept the end of their relationship. Friends and acquaintances recall his volatile temper and his relentless efforts to maintain control over Brittany's life. He would often show up unannounced at her workplace, leaving her feeling frightened and unsafe. The police wasted no time in bringing Darren in for questioning. They hoped to uncover any evidence that could link him to the murder of the Ingretza twins. During the interrogation, Darren's demeanor was tense and defensive. He vehemently denied any involvement in the crime, claiming that he had moved on from his relationship with Brittany. As the investigation unfolded, the police delved into Darren's background, meticulously scrutinizing his every move. They discovered that Darren's obsession with Brittany had escalated in the months leading up to the murders. He had been seen lurking around the twins' apartment building, often peering through their windows. Some witnesses even claimed to have seen him following the sisters as they went about their daily routines. To strengthen their case against Darren, the police analyzed his phone records, hoping to find any incriminating evidence. They discovered a series of disturbing text messages and voicemails that Darren had sent to Brittany in the weeks prior to the murders. In these messages, he expressed his anger and frustration, threatening to harm her if she didn't reconcile with him. The police also uncovered surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store, placing Darren in the vicinity of the Ingretza twins' apartment on the night of the murders. This crucial piece of evidence further implicated him in the crime. Despite the mounting evidence against Darren, the investigation was far from over. The police continued to explore other leads and potential suspects, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in their pursuit of justice for Brittany and Bethany. As the investigation into the shocking murder of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza unfolded, the police turned their attention to Roxy Blaine, a 26-year-old co-worker and close friend of the twins. Roxy, known for her caring and empathetic nature, had expressed concerns about Brittany's ex-boyfriend, Darren Kapa, in the past. However, her credibility had been undermined by her occupation as a stripper and her history of alcoholism. In the small town of Marengo, Illinois, where everyone seemed to know everyone else's business, Roxy's reputation had been tarnished. The local gossip mill whispered tales of her wild nights at the strip club and her struggles with addiction. But the police knew that sometimes, the most unexpected individuals could hold the key to solving a crime. On that fateful day in September 2006, the police brought Roxy in for questioning. Detective Anderson, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for getting to the truth, stared intently at Roxy, searching for any signs of deception. Roxy, dressed in worn-out jeans and a faded band t-shirt, sat nervously in the uncomfortable metal chair. She fidgeted with her fingers, her eyes darting around the room. She recounted the countless nights they spent together at the strip club, sharing stories and dreams. She described the bond they had formed, a sisterhood born out of adversity. Roxy's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke of the twins' kindness and the love they had shown her during her darkest moments. The detective pressed further, asking about any potential motives or connections that could shed light on the crime. Roxy hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with memories and possibilities. She mentioned a mysterious woman who had been lurking around the club in the weeks leading up to the murders. She described her unsettling demeanor and the way she seemed fixated on the twins. Detective Anderson furrowed his brow, his mind working to piece together the puzzle. He made a mental note to check security footage from that time, hoping it would provide some insight into this unknown figure. He thanked Roxy for her cooperation and assured her that they would leave no stone unturned in their quest for justice. As Roxy left the police station that day, a mix of relief and anxiety washed over her. She knew that the investigation was far from over, and the truth was still shrouded in darkness. But she had taken the first step in helping to unravel the web of secrets surrounding the murder of her beloved friends. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the brutal murders of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza took a surprising twist. The small town of Marengo, Illinois was left reeling as new evidence emerged, shedding light on a hidden connection between two key suspects. Detectives Anderson and Ranger, leading the investigation, meticulously combed through the evidence, determined to bring justice to the slain sisters. It was during this process that they stumbled upon a startling revelation. Roxy Blaine, the twins' co-worker and close friend, had a secret sexual involvement with Darren Kapa, Brittany's volatile ex-boyfriend. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Roxy had been concealing her sexual relationship with Darren, adding a layer of complexity to the case. This revelation raised questions about her potential motive and involvement in the heinous crime that rocked the town. The town of Marengo was abuzz with speculation as the news of Roxy's secret relationship with Darren spread like wildfire, fueling public interest and raising even more questions about the motives behind the twins' murders. As the investigation intensified, the detectives began to piece together a timeline of events leading up to the fateful day in September 2006. They discovered that Darren's possessive nature and inability to accept the breakup had driven him to stalk and harass Brittany relentlessly. Roxy, caught in the middle, had become entangled in a dangerous web of deceit and manipulation. The investigation took a sudden turn as the focus shifted to a new suspect, Tom Pelforth, a 30-year-old musician and close friend of Bethany Ingretza. Tom, known for his laid-back attitude and easygoing personality, was Bethany's bandmate in the popular local band Polka Threat. The band, which blended traditional polka music with indie rock, had gained a small but dedicated following in the Marengo music scene. Despite being close friends with Bethany, Tom had always carried a torch for her. Friends and acquaintances described him as supportive of Bethany's musical aspirations and never showing any signs of aggression or violence. However, the police had to consider all possibilities and thoroughly investigate Tom's connection to the heinous crime that had rocked the small town of Marengo. Detectives Anderson and Ranger brought Tom in for questioning, hoping to uncover any hidden motives or connections to the murder of the Ingretza twins. The interrogation room was tense as the detectives pressed Tom for information. They carefully probed into his relationship with Bethany, looking for any signs of jealousy or resentment that could have driven him to commit such a heinous act. Tom maintained his innocence throughout the questioning, providing an alibi for the night of the murder. He claimed to have been at a local bar, the Rusty Nail, that evening. The detectives meticulously verified Tom's alibi, interviewing bar staff and patrons who confirmed his presence at the venue during the time of the crime. Despite the alibi, the detectives continued to investigate Tom's background and acquaintances. They delved into his social media presence, looking for any clues or connections that could shed light on his involvement. They also reached out to band members and friends, seeking additional information about Tom's relationship with Bethany and any potential conflicts that might have arisen. In a shocking turn of events, the small town of Marengo, Illinois, was rocked by the revelation of the true identity of the murderer responsible for the heinous crime that claimed the lives of Brittany and Bethany Ingretsa. After weeks of tireless investigation, the police finally identified and arrested Darren Kapa, a 28-year-old mechanic and former boyfriend of Brittany. Darren's motive for the brutal killings was rooted in jealousy and resentment towards Brittany's deep bond with her twin sister. Unable to accept their breakup, Darren's anger and obsession grew, leading him down a dark and sinister path. Consumed by feelings of anger and rejection, he devised a twisted plan to exact his revenge on Brittany. On that fateful September night, Darren entered the apartment where the sisters resided. In a fit of rage, he unleashed his fury upon Brittany, suffocating her to death on the living room sofa. But he didn't stop there. Bethany, tragically caught in the crossfire, became an innocent victim of Darren's deranged actions. The small town of Marengo was left in shock and disbelief as the news of the gruesome double murder spread like wildfire. The police, determined to bring justice to the victims and their grieving families, tirelessly pursued the investigation. They meticulously combed through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed every lead that came their way. The weight of the case and the urgency to solve it weighed heavily on their shoulders as the community anxiously awaited answers. Finally, a breakthrough came when a key piece of evidence linked Darren to the crime. The police, armed with this crucial information, swiftly moved in to apprehend him. The arrest sent shockwaves through the town as the residents grappled with the realization that the murderer had been living among them. The arrest of Darren Kapa brought a sense of relief to the community, but it also served as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. In the wake of the shocking murders of twins Brittany and Bethany Ingretsa, the small town of Marengo, Illinois was left reeling. The gruesome crime had shattered the community's sense of security and left a void that could never be filled. As the case unfolded, the search for justice became paramount, and the trial of the murderer, Darren Kapa, became a pivotal moment in the quest for closure. The trial began on a somber April morning in the Marengo County Courthouse. Prosecutor Larry Pascoe-Grover, a seasoned legal expert known for his unwavering dedication to justice, presented a compelling case against Kapa. With meticulous attention to detail, Pascoe-Grover meticulously laid out the evidence, painting a vivid picture of the events that unfolded on that fateful night. Attorney Tom Berlin, representing the defense, fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. Berlin, known for his sharp legal mind and persuasive arguments, attempted to create an alternative narrative that would exonerate his client. The courtroom was filled with tension as the two legal titans clashed in a battle of wits and rhetoric. Throughout the trial, the Ingretsa families sat in the front row, their faces etched with grief and anger. Their presence served as a constant reminder of the lives that had been brutally cut short. As the trial progressed, witnesses took the stand, recounting the events leading up to the murders. Friends and acquaintances of the victims spoke of their vibrant personalities and the dreams they had for the future. The defense called into question the credibility of some witnesses, while the prosecution presented forensic evidence that seemed to point directly at Kapa. After weeks of intense courtroom drama, the jury finally reached a verdict. The tension in the air was palpable as the foreperson stood and delivered the words that would determine Kapa's fate. Guilty. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, sorrow, and a sense of closure for the families of Brittany and Bethany. The judge, known for his no-nonsense approach to sentencing, wasted no time in delivering his judgment. Kapa was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led away in handcuffs, the family of the victims found a small measure of solace in knowing that justice had been served. Following the conclusion of the trial, the lives of those involved in the Marengo, Illinois murder case took different paths. Darren Kapa, the perpetrator of the heinous crime, received his just punishment and was sentenced to a lifetime behind bars. The small town breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that justice had been served. For the Ingretsa family, however, the pain of losing Brittany and Bethany remained ever present. In the years that followed, they established a scholarship fund in honor of Brittany and Bethany. The fund provided financial assistance to aspiring teachers and musicians, keeping the sisters' dreams alive. Meanwhile, Roxy Blaine, who had been involved with Darren Kapa, faced the consequences of her actions. The revelation of her secret relationship with the murderer shocked the community. Roxy, burdened by guilt and shame, sought redemption by volunteering at a local women's shelter. She hoped to make amends and prevent others from falling victim to abusive relationships. The case of the Ingretsa sisters had a lasting impact on the town of Marengo. The community came together to raise awareness about domestic violence, organizing workshops and seminars to educate residents on recognizing the signs of abuse. The Marengo Police Department implemented new protocols to ensure that future cases of domestic violence would be handled with utmost care and urgency. The town of Marengo, Illinois, will forever bear the scars of this tragic crime. The lives of Brittany and Bethany Ingretsa were cut short, leaving a community shattered and searching for answers. In the suburban tranquility of Rochester, New York, Vanessa Robertson, age 46, lived the life emblematic of the American dream. A dedicated mother of 3 and a valued filing clerk at the iconic photography company Kodak, Vanessa's life was one interwoven with the fabric of her community. Nestled in a 4-bedroom home on a street lined with similar manifestations of middle-class aspiration, she was a figure of constancy and warmth. Vanessa's educational journey culminated with a degree from the University of Rochester, an institution renowned for its contribution to research and academia. It was here that she not only honed her professional skills but also met her husband, Andrew, forging the beginnings of their shared future. The world outside her home was in the throes of change. The news cycle of March 2010 was dominated by the Affordable Care Act debates, and the tremors of the Great Recession were still palpable in households and boardrooms alike. Kodak, once a titan of industry, was grappling with the digital revolution, its struggles an echo of the wider economic uncertainty. Despite the tumult, Vanessa's focus remained on the immediate joys and challenges of life. Her eldest was preparing for college, her middle child was navigating the throes of adolescence, and her youngest was on the cusp of celebrating her 10th birthday. Vanessa poured her dreams into her children's futures, envisioning for them a world of possibilities that perhaps she had never dared to imagine for herself. Colleagues at Kodak described Vanessa as diligent and personable, a woman who brought order to the chaos of filing with a smile that seldom waned. Friends spoke of her as the linchpin of her family, a woman whose laughter could light up a room and whose presence was a comfort in uncertain times. In the days before her untimely death, Vanessa was absorbed in the minutiae of life, from planning her daughter's birthday party to navigating the everyday demands of her job. Unbeknownst to her, the threads of her carefully woven tapestry were about to unravel in the most tragic of circumstances. On the cold morning of March 15, 2010, as Rochester residents awoke to the remnants of a winter chill, a grim discovery was made in a quiet neighborhood. At 7:30 a.m., under a slate-gray sky, the smoldering remains of what was once a family home on Maplewood Drive were found. The house, belonging to Vanessa Robertson, a 46-year-old Kodak employee, had been reduced to a blackened shell. The distressing find was made by Diana Hastings, a neighbor and longtime resident of the area. Diana, who had set out to collect her morning newspaper, was met with an acrid smell and a scene of destruction that halted her in her tracks. The Robertson residence, known for its well-kept lawn and the laughter of children, lay in ruins before her. With shaking hands, she reached for her cell phone and dialed 911, her voice quivering as she reported the catastrophe to the authorities. As news of the fire began to spread, local media outlets picked up the story, interrupting regular programming with breaking news alerts. The tragedy quickly became the talk of the town, overshadowing the usual buzz about the upcoming St. Patrick's Day celebrations and the latest reports on the health care bill making its way through Congress. Firefighters, who had battled the blaze through the night, were still on the scene, dousing the last of the smoldering embers when police arrived. It was amid this backdrop of charred timbers and the stark reality of a life interrupted that Vanessa's body was discovered. Positioned in what was once the living room, her remains bore the silent testimony to the inferno's deadly force. The community, just beginning its day, was now united in shock and mourning. The Robertsons, active members of their local church and participants in neighborhood gatherings, were well regarded, and Vanessa's death resonated with a poignant intensity. As the reality of the tragedy set in, the question on everyone's lips was a whispered, how could this happen? The Rochester Police Department was swift to respond to the call from Maplewood Drive on that bleak March morning. The first officers arrived within minutes, their squad cars breaking the early silence. The scene they encountered was one of devastation. A family home, once a symbol of suburban stability, now lay in ruins, a stark contrast to the neighboring houses untouched by the tragedy. Detectives Matthew Harmon and Liana Grace, veterans of the force, were tasked with leading the investigation. They approached the scene with a practiced calm, but the gravity of the situation was not lost on them. The air was still tinged with the scent of smoke, and the debris from the fire crunched underfoot as they surveyed the damage. The crime scene was a harrowing tableau. Amidst the blackened remains of the Robertson home, Vanessa's body was found. There were no overt signs of violence, but the circumstances were suspicious enough to consider foul play. The detectives, well-versed in the grim language of crime scenes, noted the absence of personal effects that might have survived the fire, raising questions about the intensity and origin of the flames. As they cordoned off the area, Harmon and Grace directed the forensics team to begin their meticulous work. Using the latest in crime scene technology, including thermal imaging cameras to detect any residual heat sources and accelerant-sniffing dogs to trace the path of the fire, the team combed through the ashes. Every fragment was potential evidence, every clue a possible key to unraveling the mystery of Vanessa Robertson's death. The local media, already abuzz with the healthcare debates and the international headlines of Chile's recent earthquake, now had a domestic tragedy to report. Camera crews and reporters gathered at the perimeter, their lenses and microphones capturing the somber investigation for an audience grappling with the shock of the event. As the day wore on, the community awaited answers. The Rochester Police Department was under pressure to piece together the puzzle of the house fire that had claimed one of their own. For Detectives Harmon and Grace, the task was clear: to bring clarity and justice to a scene shrouded in ash and ambiguity. The investigation into Vanessa Robertson's death led detectives to the doorstep of the first suspect, Elzar Jones. At 75, Jones was a fixture in the community, known for his stern demeanor and his sprawling farmland that bordered the Robertson property. A property dispute between Jones and the Robertsons had been simmering for months, a fact that did not escape the attention of the Rochester Police Department. Elzar Jones had lived through the ebbs and flows of rural life and had seen his share of conflict over land and legacy. His farm, a once thriving enterprise, had felt the sting of the Great Recession, and the dispute with the Robertsons over a contested piece of borderland had added to the weight of his troubles. Despite his advancing years, Jones harbored dreams of leaving a prosperous and unencumbered farm to his heirs, a dream that seemed to be slipping through his fingers. When detectives Harmon and Grace arrived to question him, they found Jones in his barn, tending to his equipment, seemingly unfazed by the police presence. His response to their inquiries was laced with indignation. He vehemently denied any involvement in the fire, his voice rising above the clatter of the news reports from a radio perched on a nearby workbench, the voice of a local anchor discussing the latest unemployment figures. A stark reminder of the tense economic climate. Jones's interrogation was conducted with the precision of seasoned investigators. They probed for inconsistencies in his alibi, scrutinized his reactions, and searched for any flicker of guilt that might betray complicity. Jones, for his part, remained obstinate, his replies a mixture of defiance and exasperation. The detectives left the farm with more questions than answers. The Rochester community, still reeling from the news of the fire and the death of one of their own, watched with a mix of curiosity and concern. The investigation was unfolding under the watchful eye of a town unaccustomed to such tragedies, and the spotlight on Elzar Jones was unrelenting. As the investigation into the tragic fire progressed, detectives turned their focus to Kristen Vmont, a 35-year-old colleague of Vanessa Robertson at Kodak. Vmont, known for her ambitious streak within the company, had reportedly clashed with Vanessa on multiple occasions, leading to a palpable tension in the office that did not go unnoticed by their coworkers. Kristen had joined Kodak during a time of significant transition as the company struggled to adapt to the digital age in the wake of declining film sales, a struggle mirrored in news reports and business analyses of the time. Her aspirations to ascend the corporate ladder were well known, and she envisioned herself as a transformative figure within the company, capable of steering Kodak back to its former glory. Detectives Harmon and Grace approached the interrogation with a methodical strategy, aware of the delicate nature of office politics and the undercurrent of rivalry that could potentially motivate a crime. They questioned Kristen at the police station, where she presented herself with a composed exterior that belied the seriousness of the situation. Throughout the questioning, Kristen maintained her calm, her responses measured and deliberate. She acknowledged her professional disagreements with Vanessa but firmly denied any personal animosity that would lead to such a heinous act. Her demeanor was cool and collected, even as the detectives pressed her on the details of her whereabouts on the night of the fire. The Rochester community, still processing the loss of one of their own, followed the case with growing interest. Local media outlets, in between updates on the latest iPad release and the unfolding healthcare debate in Washington, kept the public informed of every development. The scrutiny on Kristen Vmont intensified as the police continued to piece together the events leading up to the fire, her professional dreams and ambitions now cast in the shadow of a criminal investigation. On March 20, 2010, as the city of Rochester braced against a persistent spring drizzle, the investigation into Vanessa Robertson's death took a significant turn. Detectives Harmon and Grace received a report that breathed new life into the case. A series of anonymous, threatening emails sent to Vanessa in the weeks prior to her death had been uncovered by the department's cybercrime unit. The emails, traced back to an untraceable source, were laced with vitriol and menacing undertones, digital missives that painted a picture of someone with a vendetta against Vanessa. The discovery of these emails shifted the narrative of the investigation, suggesting that the fire might have been a premeditated act of violence rather than a tragic accident. The Rochester Police Department's response was swift and methodical. The forensics team, equipped with advanced software used to analyze digital communications, worked tirelessly to extract any metadata that might lead to the identification of the sender. Meanwhile, detectives revisited the charred remnants of the Robertson home, searching for any physical evidence that might corroborate the digital threats. The news of the threatening emails rippled through the community, which was already grappling with the economic anxieties of the time, the whispers of Kodak's financial troubles, and the broader implications of the ongoing recession. The case, with its new twist, was now the subject of fervent discussion on local radio shows and in the comment sections of online news articles, as residents of Rochester sought to make sense of the unfolding drama. As the investigation pressed forward, the police remained tight-lipped about their findings, though it was clear that the discovery of the emails had provided a new avenue of inquiry. The Rochester community watched on, hopeful that this latest development would bring them closer to understanding the events that led to the tragic loss of Vanessa Robertson. The Rochester Police Department's search for Vanessa Robertson's killer led them to a third individual of interest, George Stanovich, a 45-year-old ex-convict whose presence had been noted in the vicinity of the Robertson residence in the days preceding the fire. Stanovich, with a past marred by criminal activity, had been attempting to reintegrate into society, holding on to the dream of leaving his checkered history behind him. Stanovich's occupation since his release from prison had been sporadic, with him taking on various odd jobs around Rochester. His transient nature and proximity to the Robertsons' home during the critical time frame made him a figure of suspicion in the eyes of the detectives. Stanovich's aspirations for a normal life, free from the stigma of his past, were now overshadowed by the investigation. Detectives Harmon and Grace approached the interrogation with the intent to peel back the layers of Stanovich's recent activities. The questioning took place against the backdrop of a city still in shock, with local news outlets like WRC-TV and the Democrat and Chronicle closely following the case, providing the public with a steady stream of updates amidst their coverage of the healthcare bill's progress and the local impact of the economic downturn. During the interrogation, Stanovich's demeanor oscillated between anxious and defensive. He acknowledged his presence in the area but claimed it was innocuous, related to a potential job opportunity. His responses were tinged with the frustration of a man familiar with being on the wrong side of the law, yet he maintained his innocence regarding the fire and Vanessa's death. The Rochester community, already on edge from the recession's impact on local industry giants like Xerox and Bosch and Lohm, watched as the police delved deeper into Stanovich's alibi. With each passing day, the pressure mounted to solve the case and provide answers to a family and a city in mourning. The relentless pursuit of truth by the Rochester Police Department culminated in a revelation that would shake the foundations of the Robertson family and the community at large. Andrew Robertson, a 48-year-old engineer at Kodak and the bereaved husband of Vanessa Robertson, emerged as the prime suspect in the case. The economic strain of the Great Recession had left Andrew facing the prospect of unemployment, as Kodak, once a bastion of innovation and prosperity, was now grappling with the seismic shifts of the digital age. Andrew, described by colleagues as a pragmatic man deeply invested in his work, had been harboring a secret that would unravel his seemingly stable life. With Kodak's layoffs making headlines and the financial security of families across Rochester hanging in the balance, Andrew had been silently drowning in desperation. His dream of maintaining the comfortable life he had built for his family was slipping away, and in a moment of profound misjudgment, he set his home ablaze, intending to claim the insurance without his wife's knowledge. On that fateful March evening, as the city contended with the chill of early spring and the local news reported on the burgeoning Tea Party movement's rallies, Andrew had not realized that Vanessa would be home. The fire, intended as a desperate escape from financial ruin, instead became an act of unintended but irreversible devastation. Detectives Harmon and Grace, after painstakingly reconstructing the sequence of events and analyzing the evidence, confronted Andrew with their findings. His facade of stoicism crumbled as the implications of his actions became clear. The man who had sought to protect his family from economic hardship had instead torn it asunder. As the news of Andrew's arrest spread through Rochester, the city was left to grapple with the dichotomy of a man who was both a respected engineer and now a convicted murderer. The case, a stark reminder of the pressures that can fracture even the most ordinary lives, became a touchstone for discussions on the far-reaching effects of the recession. On the evening of March 25, 2010, under the dimming light of an overcast sky, the Rochester Police Department made a decisive move in the case of Vanessa Robertson. Andrew Robertson, a 48-year-old Kodak engineer and the unsuspecting husband turned suspect, was taken into custody. The city, still grappling with the economic anxieties of the recession and the uncertainty surrounding local stalwarts like Kodak, now witnessed the dramatic turn in a case that had captivated the community. The arrest occurred at Andrew's temporary residence, a modest hotel room he had retreated to amidst the investigation. Detectives Harmon and Grace, armed with evidence of his ill-fated attempt to escape financial ruin, approached with a warrant. The scene was far removed from the technological advancements and corporate strategies discussed in Kodak's boardrooms or the latest healthcare debates that dominated the airwaves. Andrew's reaction to the arrest was a complex tapestry of emotions. Surprise registered on his face, quickly followed by the dawning realization of the consequences of his actions. The man who had engineered a desperate plan to secure his family's future through an act of arson was now confronted with the irreversible outcome of his wife's death. As the news of the arrest broke, it rippled through Rochester's local media, with reporters from stations like Wham and WGC providing live updates. Breaking into scheduled programming that included March Madness basketball and the latest episodes of popular TV shows. The community, which had been following the case with bated breath, now grappled with the reality that the tragedy was rooted not in random violence but in a domestic spiral gone horribly wrong. The Robertson children, already facing the loss of their mother, were dealt another blow with the arrest of their father. The family's grief was compounded by a sense of betrayal, their private turmoil laid bare for all to see. As the details of the case unfolded, the city of Rochester bore witness to a family's heartbreak and the downfall of a man who had succumbed to the darkest reaches of despair. The trial of Andrew Robertson commenced amidst a climate of heightened public interest. The courtroom, a stage for the unfolding drama, was presided over by a sea of legal professionals, media personnel, and a community seeking closure. Helen Pierce, the prosecutor, stood as a figure of relentless justice. At 52, her reputation was that of a formidable presence in the courtroom, having navigated numerous high-profile cases with a blend of legal acumen and unwavering resolve. On the opposing side, defense attorney Sheila Keller, 47, was known for her persuasive oratory and empathetic approach to the law. Keller's task was to humanize Andrew, to cast him as a tragic figure overwhelmed by the economic pressures that had seized the nation, much like the recession's grip on Rochester's own corporate giants, Kodak and Xerox. As Pierce laid out the prosecution's case, she weaved a narrative of premeditated arson, a desperate act by a man on the brink. She referenced the digital evidence, the financial strains, and the insurance policy that pointed to a motive rooted in economic despair. The courtroom, filled with the hum of whispered speculation, was a microcosm of the wider world, where news cycles were dominated by stories of financial ruin and corporate bailouts. Keller's defense painted a different picture, that of a man who had made a catastrophic error in judgment, without malice or intent to harm his beloved wife. She highlighted Andrew's role as a provider, a man caught in an economic maelstrom that had left him floundering. Throughout the proceedings, the emotional toll on Vanessa's family was palpable. They sat, a portrait of sorrow, their presence a silent testimony to the life that had been so abruptly taken from them. The trial, unfolding under the scrutiny of local media outlets like the Democrat and Chronicle, became a somber reflection of the times, a narrative of personal tragedy against the backdrop of national economic hardship. The somber atmosphere of the Rochester courthouse was palpable as the jury returned with their verdict for Andrew Robertson. After hours of deliberation, which seemed to echo the broader societal deliberations on justice and economic hardship, the jury found Andrew guilty of manslaughter and arson. The decision reverberated through the courtroom, where the tension had been as thick as the March fog blanketing the city's skyline. Prosecutor Helen Pierce, her career marked by a string of successful convictions, stood satisfied with the outcome, believing justice had been served. The defense attorney, Sheila Keller, known for her eloquent defenses and a personal touch that often resonated with juries, was visibly subdued, his expression reflecting the weight of the verdict. The sentencing phase brought a heavy penalty as the judge, attuned to the severity of the crime and its repercussions, imposed a lengthy prison sentence. The gravity of the sentence sought to reflect not only the loss of Vanessa's life, but also the betrayal of trust and the breach of safety within the sanctity of one's home. Some in the community felt the punishment was just, considering the deliberate act of setting the fire, while others debated the role of Andrew's desperate financial circumstances, drawing parallels to the leniency shown in some corporate bailouts of the era. The impact of the sentence on Vanessa's family was complex. While some felt a measure of relief, others questioned whether any sentence could adequately address the void left behind. Friends and family, their emotions raw, were divided on whether justice had truly been served. Local news outlets, which have been following the case with the same intensity as the national coverage of the iPad's release earlier that month, now reported on the community's reaction. The sentencing was more than a legal conclusion. It was a moment of reflection on the personal cost of the economic downturn that had swept through Rochester and the nation. In the wake of the trial that had gripped Rochester, life slowly began to move forward. The family of Vanessa Robertson, now navigating a world without her, sought solace in the support of the community and in each other. The children, bereft of both parents, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, their resilience a testament to their mother's enduring influence. Detectives Harmon and Grace, who had become fixtures in the media narrative surrounding the case, returned to their duties. The experience, however, left an indelible mark on their careers. They continued to serve with a renewed understanding of the complexities of human behavior and the unforeseen impacts of financial despair. The suspects who had been drawn into the case, Elzar Jones, Kristen Vmont, and George Stanovich, sought to reclaim their reputations and move past the cloud of suspicion that had briefly overshadowed their lives. Jones returned to his farm, Vmont to her ambitions at Kodak, and Stanovich to his quest for redemption. Rochester itself, a city that had witnessed the rise and fall of industrial giants, the ebb and flow of economic fortunes, and now the tragic end of one of its own, continued to evolve. The case had become a part of its history, a story recounted in the pages of the Democrat and Chronicle and discussed in the quiet corners of local establishments. As the memory of the trial faded from the headlines, overtaken by coverage of the 2010 midterm elections or the latest advancements from companies like Apple, the community did not forget the lessons learned. The tragedy of Vanessa Robertson served as a stark reminder of the human cost of economic hardship, a narrative that resonated in the collective consciousness of a city all too familiar with change. Life after the trial was not just about moving on. It was about remembering and finding meaning in the aftermath of loss. For all those touched by the case, the journey forward was one paved with reflection, resilience, and a hope for a future free from such heartbreak. The case of Vanessa Robertson is a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the unforeseen consequences of desperation. In the quiet suburb of Rochester, a family was torn asunder, and a community was left to find healing in the aftermath of a tragedy that was as senseless as it was sorrowful. Emily Kenyan was a 37-year-old woman who lived in West Palm Beach, Florida. She was known for being kind and caring, with a special love for snakes. She worked as a curator at a local reptile house, where she took care of different kinds of snakes. Her collection included pythons, boas, and even a rare green mamba. Emily also loved gardening and spent a lot of her free time tending to her plants and flowers. Emily went to the University of South Florida, where she studied biology. She met Marlin Kenyan there, and they got married shortly after she graduated. They moved to a cozy house with a big backyard, perfect for her garden and snake enclosures. Emily was close to her family, especially her younger brother named Brian, who worked as a teacher in Orlando. Emily was very involved in her community. She volunteered at the local animal shelter and helped organize charity events. She was a member of the West Palm Beach Garden Club and often shared her gardening tips with friends and neighbors. People described Emily as friendly, always willing to lend a hand, and full of life. In September 2003, Emily's life took a dramatic turn. She discovered that her husband Marlin was secretly married to another woman named Zara Pinnock, who Emily knew as her gynecologist. This revelation shocked Emily. She revealed his bigamy to her close friend and coworker Robert Banovac, who shared her love for snakes. Robert was worried about her and advised her to be careful. Emily decided to confront Marlin about his bigamy. She was determined to get answers and figure out what to do next. Despite the stress, she continued with her daily routines, working at the reptile house and tending to her garden. She even attended a community fair where she helped with the snake exhibit and enjoyed watching children's faces light up in amazement. During this time, Emily also learned that she was pregnant. This added to her emotional turmoil, but she was hopeful about the future. She planned to visit her brother in Orlando to talk about her situation and seek their advice. Unfortunately, Emily never got the chance to share her plans. Her life was cut short before she could find a resolution to the chaos brought by Marlin's betrayal. On the morning of September 10, 2003, West Palm Beach was overcast, with dark clouds hinting at rain. At around 7:30 a.m., Linda Ross, Emily Kenyan's neighbor, was walking her dog, Linda Hargrove Lansky, when she noticed something unusual. Linda often saw Emily working in her garden at this time, but today the backyard was eerily quiet. Linda decided to check on Emily. As she approached the backyard fence, she saw Emily lying on the ground near her favorite rose bushes. Linda immediately sensed something was wrong. She called out to Emily, but got no response. With growing concern, she opened the gate and rushed to Emily's side. What Linda saw was shocking. Emily was lying face down in a pool of blood. She had been brutally beaten, and a bloody golf club was lying nearby. Linda's heart raced, and she felt a wave of panic. She quickly pulled out her cell phone and dialed 911, her hands shaking as she spoke to the operator. Within minutes, emergency services arrived. Paramedics confirmed that Emily was dead. Linda, still in shock, was asked to sit down and try to calm herself. She could hardly believe what she had seen. The neighborhood soon filled with police cars and curious neighbors peeking from their windows, wondering what had happened. The news of Emily's death spread quickly. Local media, including the Palm Beach Post, reported on the incident, and residents of West Palm Beach were left in shock and disbelief. The community mourned the loss of a beloved member, and the police were determined to find out who was responsible for such a brutal act. On September 10, 2003, at around 7:45 a.m., the West Palm Beach Police Department arrived at Emily Kenyan's home. The sky was still overcast, with the threat of rain looming. Detectives James Avery and Avery Brooks were leading the investigation. They arrived quickly, knowing that every minute was crucial. Detective Avery, known for his keen eye and calm demeanor, took charge of the scene. His partner, Detective Brooks, was meticulous and methodical, always careful to preserve evidence. The backyard was now a crime scene, and a once beautiful garden looked like a battlefield. Blood was splattered on the grass and patio, and an overturned pot lay next to Emily's body. The detectives immediately noticed the golf club lying next to Emily. It was covered in blood and appeared to be the murder weapon. Emily's body showed signs of a violent struggle, with multiple wounds to her head and upper body. The scene was chaotic, with broken flower pots and scattered gardening tools, indicating a fierce attack. Forensic experts arrived shortly after the detectives. They carefully collected evidence, including the golf club, blood samples, and any possible DNA evidence. They took photographs from every angle, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. The crime scene unit also dusted for fingerprints on the golf club and nearby surfaces. Detective Avery and Detective Brooks began their investigation by speaking with Linda Ross, the neighbor who found Emily's body. Linda was still in shock, but provided a clear account of her discovery. She described seeing Emily lying face down in the garden and calling 911 immediately. Her statement was detailed and consistent, helping the detectives piece together the initial timeline. As the investigation continued, the detectives canvassed the neighborhood. They interviewed other neighbors, asking if they had seen or heard anything unusual that morning. Some neighbors reported hearing a loud argument late the previous night, but no one had seen anyone enter or leave the Kenyan property. Inside the house, detectives looked for further clues. They searched for signs of forced entry but found none, suggesting that Emily might have known her attacker. They also checked for any personal items that might be missing or disturbed. Emily's purse and cell phone were still in the house, ruling out robbery as a motive. Detectives Avery and Brooks knew they had to act fast. The evidence pointed to a personal motive, and they were determined to find out who had committed this brutal crime. They reviewed the evidence and prepared to question the people closest to Emily, starting with her husband, Marlin Kenyan. The first suspect in Emily Kenyan's murder was her husband, Marlin Kenyan. At 35 years old, Marlin seemed to have a perfect life. He worked as a successful financial advisor in West Palm Beach and was known for his charm and good looks. However, Marlin was hiding a dark secret. Marlin lived a double life. Not only was he married to Emily, but he was also secretly married to another woman, Zara Pinnock, in Miami. Emily had discovered this secret just days before her murder, and it had caused a significant strain on their marriage. Even more shocking and unknown to both wives was that Marlin had a secret career as a gay adult film star under the name Ash Ketchum Krabs. Detectives James Avery and Avery Brooks brought Marlin in for questioning the same day Emily's body was found. The interrogation took place at the West Palm Beach Police Department. Marlin appeared calm and collected, but the detectives were determined to find the truth.
Marlin, can you tell us where you were last night?
I was in Miami on business. I stayed at a hotel. You can check.
Marlin, did Emily know about your other wife?
Yes, she found out recently. It's been hard on us, but I would never hurt her.
The detectives checked Marlin's alibi. He claimed to be at the Hilton Miami downtown, a well-known hotel, and records showed he had indeed checked in. However, the timeline was still suspicious. Marlin could have driven back to West Palm Beach, committed the crime, and returned to Miami. Despite his calm demeanor and alibi, Marlin's double life provided a strong motive. Emily's discovery threatened to expose him, and he had a lot to lose. The detectives found Marlin's calmness unsettling. It seemed almost too perfect, as if he had rehearsed his answers. They continued to question him about his whereabouts, his relationship with Emily, and his secret life. Marlin maintained his innocence, insisting that he loved Emily and would never harm her. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to prove his guilt. Marlin was released but remained under surveillance. Detectives Avery and Brooks continued to dig into his background, hoping to find something that would link him to the crime. They interviewed his coworkers, checked his financial records, and even spoke to his second wife, Sarah, who was also in shock over the revelations. The case against Marlin was building, but the detectives needed a smoking gun. They hoped that the ongoing investigation would uncover the evidence they needed to bring justice for Emily. The second suspect in Emily Kenyan's murder was Zara Pinnock, Marlin Kenyan's other wife. Zara, a 30-year-old gynecologist, was known for her dedication to her patients at a Miami clinic. She was compassionate, hardworking, and well-respected in her field. Unbeknownst to her, she was part of Marlin's secret double life. When detectives James Avery and Avery Brooks contacted Zara on September 12, 2003, she was shocked to learn about Emily's murder and Marlin's deception. She had no idea Marlin was married to another woman. The detectives drove to Miami to speak with Zara at her clinic. Zara welcomed the detectives into her office, looking pale and distressed. Zara's genuine reaction and cooperation made it clear she was as much a victim of Marlin's deceit as Emily had been. She provided the detectives with Marlin's schedule and any details she could remember about his behavior over the past few weeks. Despite her shock and sadness, Zara remained composed. She explained that she last saw Marlin on the evening of September 9. He left their home saying he had a business trip in Miami. Zara had no reason to doubt him, but now she felt a deep sense of betrayal. The detectives asked Zara if she had any reason to believe Marlin might harm Emily. "No, I never imagined he was capable of something like this," Zara replied. "He was always so caring and attentive, but now I don't know what to believe." After the interview, Detectives Avery and Brooks reviewed Zara's statements and alibi. They verified that she was indeed at work the night of Emily's murder, making it impossible for her to have committed the crime. However, her testimony provided valuable insight into Marlin's character and possible motives. Zara's heartbreak and anger at Marlin's betrayal were evident. She cooperated fully with the investigation, eager to see justice served for Emily. The detectives thanked her for her time and promised to keep her informed as the case progressed. With Zara cleared as a suspect, the focus returned to Marlin. The detectives felt they were closing in on the truth, but they needed more evidence to make their case airtight. They'd hoped that further investigation would reveal the final pieces of the puzzle. On September 15, 2003, 5 days after Emily Kenyan's murder, new evidence emerged. The weather that morning was sunny with a light breeze, offering a brief respite from the recent gloom. At around 9:00 a.m., Detective James Avery received a call from a local pawn shop owner, Henry Guanabeo. Henry reported finding a gold bracelet with Emily's initials engraved on it. Detectives Avery and Avery Brooks quickly drove to Turner's Pawn Shop, located on Clematis Street, a well-known shopping area in West Palm Beach. The shop was small but filled with various items, from old guitars to vintage jewelry. Henry handed the bracelet to Detective Avery, explaining that a man had tried to sell it 2 days ago. The detectives examined the bracelet, recognizing it immediately as one Emily often wore. Henry provided a description of the man, which closely matched Emily's close friend and co-worker Robert Banovac. The detectives knew they were onto something significant. They thanked Henry and took the bracelet back to the police station for further analysis. At the station, forensic experts confirmed that the bracelet belonged to Emily. They also found fingerprints on it that matched Robert's. The detectives felt they were getting closer to solving the case. Later that day, the detectives reviewed surveillance footage from nearby businesses around the pawn shop. They found clear images of Robert entering the shop, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. This footage provided a crucial link between Robert and the stolen bracelet. Detective Avery and Detective Brooks discussed their next steps. They decided to bring Robert in for a round of questioning. The new evidence was compelling, and they hoped it would pressure Robert into confessing. The third suspect in Emily Kenyan's murder was Robert Banovac, a 49-year-old close friend and colleague of Emily's in the snake-collecting community. Robert was known for his passion for reptiles and his deep, unrequited love for Emily. He had a history of mental instability and occasional violent outbursts, which put him on the detectives' radar. On September 16, 2003, a day after discovering new evidence against Marlin, Detectives James Avery and Avery Brooks decided to interview Robert at his home. The weather was sunny with a few clouds, typical of a Florida morning. Robert lived in a modest house filled with snake terrariums and reptile-related memorabilia. Upon arriving at Robert's home, the detectives observed his nervous demeanor. He was a tall, thin man with glasses, appearing anxious as he led them into his living room. Robert and Emily had shared a close friendship, bonded by their love for snakes. They spent a lot of time together at reptile shows and events, which was well known in their community. Robert admitted to the detectives that he was aware of the problems in Emily's marriage to Marlin. Emily had confided in him about Marlin's other wife, leaving her deeply upset and uncertain about her future. This information gave the detectives insight into Robert's potential motive, as his unreciprocated feelings for Emily could have driven him to extreme actions. Robert's agitation grew as the detectives continued their questioning. His deep anger at Marlin for hurting Emily was evident, yet he maintained that he would never harm her. Despite his assertions, his unstable history and intense feelings for Emily made him a suspect. Robert's alibi for the night of the murder was weak. He claimed to have been home alone, tending to his snakes, but there were no witnesses to confirm his story. The detectives noted Robert's increasing distress as he expressed his regret over not being able to save Emily and his sadness over their unfulfilled relationship. Further investigation into Robert's activities revealed that he had visited Emily's garden the day after the murder. He insisted this visit was to check on her snakes, but the timing raised suspicion. Neighbors reported seeing Robert's car leave late on the night of the murder and returned early in the morning, contradicting his claim of being home. The detectives also delved into Robert's medical history, uncovering past treatment for depression and anger issues. His troubled past, combined with his intense feelings for Emily, painted a picture of a man who could potentially commit a crime of passion. Despite Robert's emotional state and suspicious behavior, the detectives needed more concrete evidence to determine his involvement in Emily's murder. They continued to monitor him closely while gathering additional clues to either implicate or clear him in the case. The breakthrough in Emily Kenyan's murder case came on September 18, 2003, when detectives James Avery and Avery Brooks uncovered critical evidence. That morning was overcast and humid, typical for West Palm Beach in late summer. The detectives had been working tirelessly, piecing together clues to identify the murderer. The new evidence emerged from an unexpected source: a neighbor's security camera footage. The camera, installed to monitor the neighbor's yard, had captured part of Emily's backyard. On the night of the murder, the footage showed Marlin Kenyan entering the backyard with a golf club. Moments later, it showed him leaving with blood on his clothes. Detectives Avery and Brooks reviewed the footage and realized they had the evidence they needed. The footage clearly placed Marlin at the crime scene with the murder weapon. The detectives prepared for Marlin's arrest, knowing it would be a crucial step in bringing justice for Emily. At 3:00 p.m., under a cloudy sky, the detectives arrived at Marlin's office. Marlin was in a meeting, discussing financial plans with clients. The detectives waited in the lobby, observing him through the glass walls. Marlin appeared confident and composed, unaware of the storm about to hit his life. When the detectives entered the room and announced his arrest, Marlin's reaction was one of shock and anger. He protested loudly, taking off all his clothes and insisting on his innocence. The detectives handcuffed him and read him his rights as his colleagues watched in stunned silence. Marlin's calm facade had finally shattered in spectacular fashion. Marlin was taken to the West Palm Beach Police Department for booking. During the interrogation, he continued to deny any involvement in Emily's murder. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming. The fingerprints and now the security footage painted a damning picture of Marlin's guilt. As Marlin awaited trial, the community grappled with the shocking revelations. Emily had been a beloved member of the community, and her murder left a void in many lives. The arrest of her husband, a man who had seemed so charming and trustworthy, was a harsh reminder of the hidden darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. Marlin Kenyan's trial for the murder of his wife, Emily Kenyan, began on December 1, 2004. The courthouse in West Palm Beach buzzed with media attention, drawing reporters from local news stations. The courtroom was filled with Emily's family, friends, and curious onlookers, all eager to see justice served. The prosecution was led by Carla Matthews, a 45-year-old seasoned attorney known for her relentless pursuit of justice. Matthews presented a strong case, starting with the shocking evidence: the security camera footage showing Marlin with a golf club, the blood-stained clothes, and the pawn bracelet with Emily's initials. She argued that Marlin's motive was to silence Emily after she discovered his double life and threatened to expose him. The defense attorney, Mike Travian, was a 50-year-old veteran lawyer with a reputation for defending difficult cases. Travian argued that Marlin was innocent, claiming the evidence was circumstantial and that Marlin loved Emily deeply. He suggested that someone else, possibly Robert Banovac, could have committed the crime out of jealousy and anger. Throughout the trial, Emily's family watched with a mix of hope and grief. Her parents, sitting in the front row, clutched each other's hands tightly, while her sister wiped away tears. The testimony of Emily's friends and co-workers painted a picture of a kind, loving woman whose life was tragically cut short. On December 15, after 2 weeks of testimony and 3 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was silent as the foreman stood up to read the decision. Marlin Kenyan was found guilty of first-degree murder. Gasps and whispers filled the room, followed by tears and hugs from Emily's family. Marlin was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily's brother addressed the court, emphasizing the gravity of Marlin's betrayal and the impact on his family and the community. Marlin showed little emotion as he was led away in handcuffs, his once confident demeanor now replaced by a blank stare. The verdict and sentencing brought a sense of justice to Emily's family and friends. While the pain of losing her would never fully heal, they found solace in knowing that Marlin would pay for his crime. The community, too, felt a measure of relief, as the trial's conclusion marked the end of a dark chapter. After Marlin Kenyan was sentenced to life in prison without parole, the lives of those involved in Emily Kenyan's case slowly began to move forward. The trial, which had concluded in December 2004, left a lasting impact on everyone. Emily's family struggled to cope with her loss. Her parents found some comfort in their community and the support of friends. They started a scholarship fund in Emily's name at the University of South Florida, hoping to help aspiring snake lovers follow in her footsteps. Zara Pinnock, Marlin's second wife, faced a different kind of challenge. Shocked and heartbroken by Marlin's betrayal and crimes, she decided to leave West Palm Beach and move back to her hometown of Trenton, New Jersey. Robert Banovac, Emily's close friend and colleague, struggled deeply with her death and his brief suspicion as a suspect. After the trial, Robert sought therapy to deal with his grief and mental health issues. Robert also continued to care for Emily's snakes, ensuring her legacy lived on through their well-being. Marlin Kenyan, now serving his life sentence, remained largely silent. His double life and the tragic consequences of his actions were subjects of ongoing discussions among his fellow inmates and the prison staff. His fall from grace served as a cautionary tale about the destructive power of secrets and lies. Emily Kenyan's tragic death had a profound impact on everyone involved. While justice was served, the pain of her loss lingered. The community's efforts to honor her memory and support each other highlighted the resilience and strength that emerged in the wake of such a devastating event. This is the story of a beloved teacher's tragic end and how her husband's jealous obsession turned deadly. Dr. Vivian Severn was 42 years old. She lived in Fort Collins, Colorado with her husband, Robert Severn. She was an English professor at a local college and known for her charismatic and engaging teaching style. Vivian was especially passionate about British interwar literature and was a noted expert in the field. She loved her job and was popular among her students, often inviting them to her home overnight to help them with their assignments. Vivian was married to Robert Severn, who owned a chain of laundromats called Clean Spin, which was popular with the local students. Their marriage, however, had been strained recently due to rumors of Vivian's infidelities. Despite this, they had been married for 15 years and shared many happy memories together. Robert, 45, was known for his upright behavior and attention to detail. He was reserved and private, often keeping to himself. Outside of work, Vivian enjoyed hiking in the nearby Rocky Mountain National Park and was an active leader of the Fort Collins Book Club. She had a wide circle of friends and was known for her lively personality and infectious laugh. Vivian's was writing a 700-page book called From Brightest Head to Lehman, Interwar Literature's Role in Historical Erotic Fiction, combining her love for teaching and research. In the days leading up to her death, Vivian was busy grading final papers and preparing for the summer semester while also finishing up her book. She was also planning a hiking trip with her friends to celebrate the end of the school year. Her colleagues noticed that she seemed excited and full of energy, looking forward to the break. She had recently posted on Facebook about a new book she was reading and shared photos from a hiking trip on Instagram. Vivian's students admired her dedication and passion. She often invited them to her office for extra help and encouraged them to discuss their ideas and opinions freely. Her office was filled with books, papers, and photos from her travels, reflecting her love for literature and adventure of all kinds. Vivian's life was full of promise, but beneath the surface, there were tensions and secrets that would soon lead to a tragic end. Her story is a reminder of how even the most seemingly perfect lives can be shattered by jealousy and obsession. On the morning of May 15, 2019, the sun had just risen over Fort Collins, casting a warm glow on the college campus. At around 7:30 a.m., Hank Murphy, a janitor at the college, began his routine cleaning rounds. Hank was a familiar face to everyone on campus, known for his friendly demeanor and dedication to keeping the building spotless. As Hank entered the English department, he noticed that Dr. Vivian Severn's office door was slightly ajar. This was unusual, as Vivian was typically meticulous about locking her door. Curious and concerned, Hank knocked gently but received no response. He pushed the door open and was met with a sight that would haunt him forever. Vivian was slumped over her desk, her body motionless. There were 2 visible gunshot wounds and blood had cooled around her. Papers and books were scattered across the desk, some stained with blood. The room was eerily silent. Hank's heart raced as he took in the scene. He stumbled backward, nearly dropping his cleaning supplies. After a few seconds of shock, he regained his composure and rushed to the nearest phone to call campus security. His hands trembled as he dialed the number, and his voice shook as he reported the discovery. The campus security officer on duty immediately dispatched a team to Dr. Severn's office and called the local police. Within minutes, the wail of sirens could be heard approaching the campus. When the police arrived, they found Hank sitting on a bench outside the building, his face pale and his eyes wide with shock. The lead investigator approached him, taking note of his distressed state. Hank recounted his discovery, his voice still shaking. He described finding Vivian slumped over the desk with blood all around, and how he had immediately called for help. The news of Dr. Severn's death spread quickly across the campus. Students and faculty were in shock, unable to comprehend the tragedy that had befallen their beloved professor. The local news stations soon picked up the story, briefly noting her death on the nightly newscast. The discovery of Vivian's body marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would uncover dark secrets and lead to an unexpected conclusion. The police arrived quickly after the call from campus security on May 15, 2019. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant led the team. Known for her keen eye and calm demeanor, she was experienced in handling tough cases. The scene at Dr. Vivian Severn's office was shocking. There were bloodstains on her desk and papers scattered everywhere. The room looked like a chaotic mix of a crime scene and a busy professor's office. The first thing the police did was secure the area, making sure no one could enter or leave. They carefully photographed everything before touching anything. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team looked for clues, starting with the bullet casings. They found 2 casings from a small caliber handgun near Vivian's desk. The trajectory of the shots suggested that the killer was standing close to Vivian when she was shot. The investigators also collected items that might be useful for evidence. They took Vivian's computer or cell phone and several personal items from her desk. Detective Lynn Bryant hoped these items would provide clues about who might have wanted to harm Vivian. Forensics experts were called in to examine the bloodstains and other physical evidence. They took samples to analyze back at the lab. The police also dusted for fingerprints, looking for any that didn't belong to Vivian or the janitor who found her. While the investigation continued inside, other officers started talking to people outside the building. They interviewed students, faculty, and staff, trying to piece together Vivian's last moments. Many people were shocked and confused, unable to believe that such a respected professor could be the victim of such a violent crime. Detective Lynn Bryant also reviewed security camera footage from around the campus. She hoped to spot anyone suspicious entering or leaving the building around the time of the murder. The footage showed some people entering and exiting the building, but nothing immediately suspicious. The police knew they had a tough case ahead. Vivian was well-liked, but the rumors about her personal life meant that there could be many potential suspects. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team prepared to dig deeper into Vivian's life, her relationships, and her secrets. They hoped that by understanding more about her, they could find the person responsible for her death. As the sun set over Fort Collins, the police wrapped up their initial investigation at the crime scene. They had gathered a lot of information, but many questions remained. The investigation was just beginning, and Detective Lynn Bryant knew they had a long road ahead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. The investigation quickly turned to Vivian Severn's husband, Robert Severn, as the primary suspect. Robert, 45, was a successful businessman who owned a chain of laundromats called Clean Spin, which was popular with students in Fort Collins. Despite his professional success, Robert was known to be reserved and private. Friends and family had noticed his increasing jealousy and obsession over rumors of Vivian's infidelities. This made him an immediate person of interest for the police. On the evening of May 16, 2019, Robert was brought in for questioning at the Fort Collins police station. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant led the interrogation. Robert appeared calm, but there was a tense air about him. The detective started by asking Robert about his relationship with Vivian. He admitted that their marriage had been strained due to the rumors about her affairs with students. Robert provided an alibi, stating that he was at home the night of Vivian's murder, working on financial reports for Clean Spin. However, when asked if anyone could confirm his alibi, Robert struggled to provide a solid witness. This raised more suspicions among the detectives. During the interrogation, Robert's demeanor shifted. He became defensive when the detectives pressed him about his whereabouts and his feelings about Vivian's alleged affairs. He repeatedly denied having any involvement in her death, but his evasive answers only made the detectives more suspicious. The police also looked into Robert's financial records and phone logs. They found several calls and texts between Robert and Vivian in the days leading up to her death, many of which were heated arguments about the rumors. This added to the detective's theory that Robert's jealousy and obsession could have driven him to commit the crime. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team continued to press Robert for more information, hoping to find inconsistencies in his story. They also searched the Severn home for any evidence that might link Robert to the crime. They found a handgun that matched the caliber of the bullets used in Vivian's murder. This was a significant piece of evidence, but it wasn't enough to make an arrest without further proof linking Robert to the actual shooting. While the police continued to investigate other leads, Robert remained a key suspect. His behavior, the strained marriage, and the discovery of the handgun all pointed towards him. However, the detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to make an arrest. The investigation was far from over, and the police were determined to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. On May 18, 2019, a clear and sunny day in Fort Collins, a significant piece of evidence surfaced. Around 10:00 a.m., campus security found a flash drive in the parking lot near the English department. It had fallen out of a backpack left behind by one of Dr. Vivian Severn's students. The flash drive was quickly handed over to the police for investigation. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant and her team examined the contents of the flash drive. To their shock, they found dozens of videos of Dr. Vivian Severn engaging in sexual activities with students both in her office and at her home. These videos confirmed the rumors about Vivian's infidelities and added a new layer to the case. It appeared that Vivian had been sexually involved in relationships with her entire class, way beyond professional boundaries. The police analyzed the videos for clues about the murder. They looked at timestamps, locations, and other details that might help identify who had access to the footage and who could have a motive for murder. The most recent video, recorded just hours before Vivian's death, showing her in a threesome with a pair of twins, Tanner and Lainey Taylor, who were two of Vivian's top students. The police also traced the origin of the videos. They discovered that the recordings had been made using hidden cameras in Vivian's office as well as in her bedroom and bathroom of her house. The detectives expanded their investigation to include anyone who might have had access to Vivian's office and home. As the investigation continued, Detective Lynn Bryant's team analyzed the digital data from the flash drive. They looked for fingerprints, checked the metadata of the files, and searched for any connections to other suspects. This new evidence complicated the case, revealing that Vivian's relationships were even more tangled than initially thought. The videos provided a clearer motive for the murder: jealousy and revenge. With the flash drive's discovery, the police had a critical piece of the puzzle. It suggested that the killer was someone who knew about Vivian's secret life and was deeply affected by it. The investigation was becoming more complex, but they were determined to follow every lead. The new evidence pointed police towards a network of relationships and secrets that could unravel the mystery behind Vivian's tragic death. The police turned their attention to Tanner and Lainey Taylor. Tanner and Lainey were 19-year-old twins and two of Dr. Vivian Severn's top students. Known for their charm and good looks, they were often seen together around campus. Several videos on the flash drive showed them both having sex with Vivian, raising suspicions about their involvement in her death. On May 19, 2019, the police brought Tanner and Lainey in for questioning. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant led the interrogation. Tanner and Lainey seemed nervous but cooperative. They admitted to having a sexual relationship with Vivian, often spending extra time in her office under the pretense of needing academic help because they had dyslexia. They also claimed that their sexual relationship with Vivian was necessary, because in Vivian's class sexual performance made up 80% of the grade. The police asked the twins about their whereabouts on the night of Vivian's death. Tanner said he was studying at the library, while Lainey said she was at a friend's house. The police checked their alibis, but neither could be confirmed with certainty. This made the detectives more suspicious of the twins. The police also looked into the Taylors' backgrounds. They were well-liked by their peers and had no history of violence or criminal activity. However, their close relationship with Vivian and the videos on the flash drive made them key suspects. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team searched the twins' dorm room for any evidence linking them to the murder. They found several items belonging to Vivian, including a book and a scarf, which raised further questions about their relationship. However, they did not find any direct evidence linking the twins to the murder weapon or the crime scene. The police also analyzed the digital data from the flash drive to see if Tanner or Lainey had accessed it. The results were inconclusive, as the flash drive had been used by multiple devices. This made it difficult to determine who had planted the hidden camera in Vivian's office. Throughout the investigation, Tanner and Lainey maintained their innocence. They expressed shock and sadness over Vivian's death and insisted they had nothing to do with it. Despite their denials, the police continued to consider them key suspects due to their close relationship with Vivian and their presence in the incriminating videos. As the investigation continued, Detective Leanne Bryant and her team knew they had to find more concrete evidence to either prove or disprove the twins' involvement in Vivian's murder. The case was becoming more complicated, and the police were determined to follow every lead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. With the investigation still open, the police turned their attention to Dr. Jonathan Brooks. Dr. Brooks was a 50-year-old professor specializing in ancient Phoenician history. Known for his strict demeanor and high academic standards, he had a reputation for being difficult to work with. Despite this, his dedication to his field was undeniable. There were rumors of a professional rivalry between Jonathan and Vivian, and some even suggested they had once been romantically involved. On May 20, 2019, the police brought Dr. Brooks in for questioning. Detective Sarah Leanne Bryant led the interrogation. Dr. Brooks was calm and cooperative, although he seemed slightly irritated by the situation. He admitted to having a professional rivalry with Vivian, but he denied any romantic involvement. He described their relationship as strictly academic and very competitive. When asked about his whereabouts on the night of Vivian's murder, Dr. Brooks said he was at home grading papers. He provided a list of students whose work he had graded, but this alibi was hard to verify. The police noted his irritation, but continued to press him for more information. Dr. Brooks revealed that he and Vivian had been engaged in a strange competition, seeing who could have sex with more students during the school year. He said it was all in good fun and claimed he was serious about it, but not enough to kill her. However, the police found this revelation extremely disturbing and considered it a possible motive. If, as he said, Vivian had won the competition shortly before her death, it could have created tension between them. The police also searched Dr. Brooks' office and home for any evidence linking him to the murder. They found several personal items belonging to Vivian, including a pen and a notebook. However, these items were not enough to directly link him to the crime. They did not find any weapons or anything that would suggest he was involved in her death. As the investigation continued, the police looked into Dr. Brooks' digital activities. They examined his emails and social media for any signs of animosity towards Vivian. They found a few heated exchanges about academic matters, but nothing that pointed to a motive for murder. Throughout the interrogation, Dr. Brooks maintained his innocence. He expressed shock and sadness over Vivian's death and insisted he had nothing to do with it. Despite his cooperation, the police remained suspicious due to his rivalry with Vivian and the strange competition they have been engaged in. Detective Leanne Bryant and her team knew they had to find more concrete evidence to either prove or disprove Dr. Brooks' involvement in Vivian's murder. The case was becoming increasingly complex, and the police were determined to follow every lead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. On May 22, 2019, the police received a breakthrough in the case. They discovered new evidence that pointed directly to Robert Severn, Vivian's husband. The evidence came from a detailed analysis of the flash drive found earlier. Hidden in the metadata of one of the videos was a timestamp showing that Robert had accessed the files an hour and a half before Vivian's murder. Detective Sarah Leanne Bryant and her team pieced together the timeline. Robert's obsession with Vivian's affairs had reached a boiling point. He found out about the sexual relationships with all of her students and felt humiliated and betrayed. The night of the murder, he traveled to Vivian's office to confront her. In a fit of rage, he shot her twice with a handgun he took from their home. The police had enough evidence to arrest Robert. On the morning of May 23, 2019, they arrived at his house. Robert was in the living room, looking anxious. When the police told him he was under arrest for the murder of his wife, he did not resist. He seemed resigned, as if he had been expecting this moment. Robert's arrest shocked the community. Vivian's colleagues and students were stunned to learn that her husband was the killer. Many had suspected him, but the confirmation was still hard to accept. The Severn family was devastated. They had hoped that Robert was innocent and were now grappling with the reality of his actions. During the interrogation, Robert confessed to the crime. He explained how he had been driven to madness by Vivian's betrayals. He couldn't stand the thought of her having sex with all of her students, and in a moment of uncontrollable anger, he killed her. Robert's confession was detailed and left no doubt about his guilt. Vivian's family had mixed reactions to Robert's arrest. They were relieved that the killer had been caught, but the pain of losing Vivian was still fresh. They struggled with the idea that someone so close to her could have committed such a horrific act. The community of Fort Collins also reacted with a mix of relief and sadness. Many people gathered to support Vivian's family during this difficult time. The police wrapped up the investigation. Having found the murderer, they have followed every lead and piece of evidence to bring justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. The case was closed, but the impact of the tragedy would linger in the hearts of those who knew her. As Robert awaited trial, the town of Fort Collins began to heal. The community came together to remember Vivian's contributions and the positive impact she had on her students and colleagues. Her legacy would live on, even as they dealt with the painful truth about her death. In January 2022, delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic, the trial of Robert Severn finally began at the Larimer County Courthouse in Fort Collins, Colorado. The courtroom was packed with media, family members, and curious locals. The prosecution was led by District Attorney and Bay Area transplant Tabitha Quasimodo, known for her meticulous approach and determination to seek justice. Quasimodo presented a strong case against Robert, detailing his motive, opportunity, and the digital evidence that linked him to Vivian's murder. Quasimodo argued that Robert's jealousy and obsession with Vivian's infidelities drove him to commit the crime. He called several witnesses to the stand, including detectives who worked on the case and experts who explained the metadata from the flash drive. The prosecution painted a clear picture of a man pushed to his breaking point by his wife's actions. The defense was handled by Robert's attorney, Lisa Martin, a 38-year-old with a reputation for being a tough and clever lawyer. Martin argued that Robert had been under immense emotional stress and had not acted with premeditation. She tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the digital evidence and suggested that someone else could have planted it to frame Robert. Throughout the trial, Vivian's family watched with heavy hearts. They were torn between their love for Robert and their need for justice for Vivian. The emotional toll was evident as they listened to the graphic details of the case and the arguments from both sides. The trial lasted for 3 weeks with intense media coverage and daily updates in local newspapers and on news channels like NBC and CNN. On February 4, 2022, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was silent as the foreperson announced that Robert Severn was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a mix of relief and sorrow to Vivian's family. They were glad that justice had been served, but devastated by the loss of both Vivian and Robert. The community of Fort Collins reacted with a sense of closure. Many felt that the trial had revealed the deep complexities and dark secrets behind Vivian's seemingly perfect life. The case had sparked conversations about relationships, mental health, and the pressures faced by individuals in both personal and professional spheres. In the weeks following the verdict, Vivian's friends and colleagues held a memorial service to honor her memory. They focused on her contributions to the academic community and her positive impact on her students. The service was a reminder of the bright, dedicated person she was, despite the tragic circumstances of her death. As Robert began his life sentence, the Severn family struggled to move forward. The trial had taken a toll on everyone involved, but they hoped to find some peace in knowing that justice had been served for Vivian. After Robert Severn was sentenced to life in prison in February 2022, life slowly began to return to normal in Fort Collins. The community, shaken by the tragic events, started to heal. Dr. Vivian Severn's family faced the difficult task of moving on without her. They continued to honor her memory by setting up a scholarship fund for students studying literature, ensuring her legacy lived on. Vivian's colleagues at the university found it hard to return to their daily routines. Many of them attended counseling sessions to cope with the loss and the shocking revelations of the case. The English department, where Vivian had taught, dedicated a reading room in her name and worked together to finish and publish her book, From Brideshead to Lehman, interwar literature's role in historical erotic fiction. Robert Severn began serving his life sentence in the Colorado State Penitentiary. He spent his days in solitary confinement, reflecting on his actions. The media coverage of the trial and his imprisonment continued to follow him, but over time, public interest waned. His friends and remaining family members visited him occasionally, but the visits became less frequent as the months passed. Tanner and Lainey Taylor, the students involved in the scandal, struggled with the aftermath of the trial. They faced backlash from their peers in the community. Despite their involvement being revealed, they tried to continue their studies. Both received counseling to help them deal with the trauma and the intense scrutiny they faced. Over time, they managed to rebuild their lives, but the events left a lasting impact on them. Dr. Jonathan Brooks, who had been a suspect in the investigation, returned to his teaching position. Although cleared of any wrongdoing in Vivian's murder, his reputation had taken a hit. He focused on his work, distancing himself from the scandal as much as possible. His colleagues were supportive, but the shadow of the events lingered. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant and her team were commended for their work in solving the case. They continued to serve the Fort Collins community, using the experience to handle future cases with even greater care and precision. The department implemented new training programs to better handle sensitive cases involving personal relationships and digital evidence. The Fort Collins community, though scared by the events, grew closer. People became more aware of the pressures and mental health issues faced by those around them. Local organizations and schools started offering more support services, aiming to prevent such tragedies in the future. The tragic death of Dr. Vivian Severn revealed a complex web of secrets and lies, ultimately driven by jealousy and obsession. Michael Foster was a 28-year-old man who lived in Huntsville, Alabama. He owned a dog kennel called Happy Paws, where he took care of dogs while their owners were away. Michael loved animals and had a special way of making every dog feel loved and safe. His friends and family often said he had a kind heart and a laid-back personality. Michael lived in a small apartment on Pine Street, a cozy place with pictures of dogs on the walls and dog toys scattered around. After finishing school, he decided to open Happy Paws. His business became well known in Huntsville, with many people trusting him with their pets. Michael had a girlfriend named Darla Green. She was a fitness influencer with tens of thousands of followers on YouTube. Darla often posted videos of her workouts and talked about the importance of women getting strong and muscled. However, their relationship had problems. Darla was known to be very controlling and jealous, which led to many arguments between them. Michael was well liked by everyone who knew him. He was also an active member of the Huntsville community, volunteering at animal shelters and participating in local events like the Panoply Arts Festival. Michael was known for his friendly nature and his ability to make everyone feel welcome. In the days before his death, Michael was excited about a new project at Happy Paws. He was planning to expand the kennel to accommodate more dogs and offer new services. He talked about his plans with his family and friends, who were all supportive. Michael also loved football and was looking forward to watching the upcoming March Madness games with his friends. Despite these issues, Michael remained focused on his dreams and his love for animals. He was looking forward to the future and all the possibilities it held. Sadly, his life was cut short in a tragic and violent way. On the morning of March 15, 2016, Michael Foster's body was discovered in his apartment. It was around 9:00 a.m. when his neighbor, Alex Leeson, noticed something strange. Alex lived in the apartment next to Michael's on Pine Street. That morning, Alex heard Michael's dog barking nonstop. This was unusual because Michael always made sure his dogs were well behaved. Alex decided to check on Michael. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Worried, he used the spare key Michael had given him for emergencies. When Alex opened the door, he immediately knew something was wrong. The apartment was a mess. Furniture was overturned, and there were signs of a struggle everywhere. Alex walked further into the apartment and saw Michael lying on the living room floor. Michael was motionless, and there was a phone charger cord wrapped tightly around his neck. Alex was shocked and terrified. His heart raced as he realized what he was seeing. Trying to stay calm, Alex quickly took out his phone and dialed 911. The 911 operator answered, and Alex, his voice shaking, explained what he had found. He told him about the barking dog, the messy apartment, and finding Michael on the floor. The operator assured Alex that help was on the way and instructed him to stay on the line until the police arrived. Minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. Police cars and an ambulance pulled up to the apartment building. They entered the apartment and immediately checked Michael for any signs of life. Sadly, it was clear that Michael was dead. The paramedics arrived and confirmed what the officers already knew. Michael Foster was gone. Officers spoke to Alex, who was still in shock but trying to be helpful. He explained everything he had seen and heard that morning. Police began securing the crime scene, making sure no one else could enter the apartment. News of the discovery spread quickly. Local media, including WAFF 48 News, reported on the tragic event. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief about what had happened to Michael, the kind man who loved dogs and always had a smile for everyone. The discovery of Michael Foster's body marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would uncover secrets and lead to a shocking conclusion. The police arrived at Michael Foster's apartment quickly after Alex Leeson's 911 call on the morning of March 15, 2016. Detective Sharon Mitchell and her partner,
Detective Emerson Carter, were the lead investigators on the case. Detective Mitchell was known for her attention to detail, and Detective Carter was respected for his methodical approach to investigations. When they entered the apartment on Pine Street, they saw a chaotic scene. The living room was in disarray with furniture overturned, and items scattered everywhere. There were clear signs of a struggle. Detective Mitchell immediately noticed the metal phone charger cord wrapped around Michael's neck. It was evident that Michael had been strangled. The detectives began their investigation by carefully examining the crime scene. Detective Mitchell took detailed notes and photographs of everything in the apartment. She pointed out the defensive wounds on Michael's arms, indicating that he had fought back against his attacker. Detective Carter used the fingerprint kit to dust for prints on the furniture and door handles. The crime scene unit arrived with more specialized equipment. They used luminol, a chemical that glows blue when it comes into contact with blood, to look for hidden bloodstains. The living room floor and some pieces of furniture showed traces of blood, suggesting a violent struggle had taken place. Outside, police spoke with neighbors to gather information about any suspicious activity they might have noticed. Several neighbors mentioned hearing loud arguments between Michael and his girlfriend, Darla Green, in the days leading up to his death. This information was noted and would be crucial in the investigation. Back inside the apartment, Detective Carter found a broken picture frame with a photo of Michael and Darla. It was clear that the couple had a tumultuous relationship. The detectives also found Michael's cell phone on the floor. They bagged it as evidence, knowing it could hold important clues. As the investigation continued, Detective Mitchell interviewed Alex Leeson. He described finding Michael's body and the chaos in the apartment. His account matched the evidence the detectives had gathered so far. Alex mentioned that Michael's dog had been barking loudly that morning, which led him to check on his neighbor. The crime scene investigation lasted several hours. By the end of the day, the detectives had gathered a significant amount of evidence. They knew they needed to find out more about Michael's relationships and recent activities to solve the case. The police's thorough and careful work at the crime scene would be the foundation of their investigation into Michael Foster's tragic death. The first suspect in Michael Foster's murder was his girlfriend, Darla Green. Darla was 27 years old and a well-known fitness influencer. She had over 100,000 followers on YouTube, where she posted videos about workouts and healthy living. Darla was muscular and often called herself a muscle girl. She was also rumored to use steroids, which made her personality even more unpredictable. Darla and Michael had been dating for about a year. Their relationship was rocky, with frequent arguments, mostly due to Darla's controlling nature. She was known to be very possessive and jealous, often monitoring Michael's activities and questioning his interactions with others. Friends and neighbors had heard them arguing loudly several times. On March 15, 2016, the police brought Darla in for questioning at the Huntsville Police Department. Detective Sharon Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Darla appeared nervous and defensive from the start. She insisted that she had been at the gym that morning and had no idea what had happened to Michael. The detectives asked Darla about her relationship with Michael. She admitted they had problems but claimed she loved him and would never hurt him. Detective Carter pressed her on the rumors about her using steroids and how it might have affected her behavior. Darla became agitated and denied using any illegal substances, though her aggressive demeanor suggested otherwise. When asked about the night before Michael's death, Darla said they had argued about Michael meeting his ex-girlfriend, Roosevelt Green, who coincidentally was also Darla's mother. She accused Michael of being unfaithful, which he denied. The detectives noted Darla's intense jealousy as a possible motive for the murder. As the interview continued, Darla's story began to show inconsistencies. She couldn't clearly explain her whereabouts during the crucial hours of the morning. Her alibi about being at the gym was shaky, as the gym's security cameras showed no footage of her arriving or leaving. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to confirm Darla's involvement, but her controlling and jealous nature made her a prime suspect. After several hours of questioning, Darla was released, but the detectives kept a close watch on her. They needed to find more evidence to link her to the crime scene. Darla's erratic behavior and the strained relationship with Michael were key points in the ongoing investigation. The second suspect in Michael Foster's murder was his best friend and coworker, Daniel Harris. Daniel, 30 years old, had been friends with Michael for many years. They worked together at Happy Paws, Michael's dog kennel business. Daniel was known for being loyal and supportive, always there for Michael during tough times. Daniel was brought in for questioning at the Huntsville Police Department on March 16, 2016.
Detective Sharon Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Daniel was visibly upset about Michael's death, but he cooperated fully with the police. The detectives began by asking Daniel about his relationship with Michael. Daniel spoke fondly of his friend, describing him as kind and dedicated to his work. He mentioned that they spent a lot of time together, both at work and outside of it. Daniel also admitted that he often tried to mediate the arguments between Michael and Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend. When the detectives asked Daniel if he knew of any reason someone would want to hurt Michael, he hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, Daniel revealed a shocking secret. He and Michael had been involved in a secret sexual relationship. Daniel explained that they had kept it hidden because they feared Darla's reaction. He was worried that Darla might have found out about their relationship and acted violently out of jealousy. Daniel's revelation added a new layer to the investigation. The detectives asked if he thought Darla was capable of harming Michael. Daniel nodded, describing her as controlling and possessive. He mentioned several instances where Darla had shown extreme jealousy, even over small things. The detectives also questioned Daniel about his whereabouts on the morning of March 15. Daniel said he was at home feeling unwell and decided to take the day off from work. He provided the detectives with the names of neighbors who could confirm his story. Detective Mitchell made a note to follow up on Daniel's alibi. Daniel was calm and cooperative throughout the interrogation, but it was clear he was deeply affected by Michael's death. The detectives thanked him for his honesty and assured him they would do everything they could to find the person responsible for Michael's murder. The new information about Michael and Daniel's relationship opened up more questions and potential motives. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into the lives of everyone involved to uncover the truth. The third suspect in Michael Foster's murder was Rosabeth Green, Darla's mother and Michael's ex-girlfriend. Rosabeth was 56 years old and a high school science teacher. She had remained on friendly terms with Michael even after he started dating her daughter. Rosabeth was known for being kind and understanding, traits that made her a beloved teacher at Huntsville High School. On March 17, 2016, the police brought Rosabeth in for questioning. Detectives Sharon Mitchell and Emerson Carter conducted the interview. Rosabeth appeared calm but worried. She was cooperative and answered all their questions. The detectives began by asking about her relationship with Michael. Rosabeth explained that she and Michael had dated a few years ago and that she had, quote, the best sex of my life during our time together. She also said they had remained friends after they broke up. She mentioned that they occasionally met for coffee to catch up and talk about life. Rosabeth admitted that Darla did not like their friendship and often got jealous. When asked about the days leading up to Michael's death, Rosabeth said she had seen Michael a week before he was killed. They had met at a local Burger King to discuss how Michael could level up his sex life with Darla. Rosabeth noted that Michael seemed stressed and mentioned problems with Darla, but he didn't go into details. Detective Carter asked Rosabeth about her whereabouts on the morning of March 15. She stated she was at school, teaching her first period biology class. Several colleagues and students could confirm her presence. The detectives made a note to follow up on her alibi. The conversation then turned to Darla. Rosabeth expressed concern about her daughter's behavior. She described Darla as controlling and often paranoid about Michael's interactions with other people. Rosabeth admitted that Darla's jealousy had caused tension between them. She also mentioned her daughter's use of steroids, which seemed to make her more aggressive and unstable. The detectives asked Rosabeth if she believed Darla was capable of harming Michael. Rosabeth hesitated but then nodded, saying she feared Darla's jealousy and obsession might have driven her to do something drastic. She shared instances where Darla had acted out in anger, reinforcing the detective's suspicions. Throughout the interview, Rosabeth remained composed and provided valuable insights into Darla's behavior. The detectives thanked her for her cooperation and assured her they were doing everything they could to find out what happened to Michael. As Rosabeth left the police station, Detective Mitchell and Detective Carter discussed the new information. Rosabeth's statements about Darla's jealousy and aggressive behavior added more weight to the growing evidence against Darla. The investigation was moving forward, and the detectives were determined to uncover the truth. On March 20, 2016, 5 days after Michael Foster's body was found, the police received a significant piece of new evidence. It was a rainy afternoon around 3:00 p.m. when Detective Sharon Mitchell got a call from a resident of Michael's apartment building. A resident said she had found something unusual in the building's trash bin. Detective Mitchell and Detective Emerson Carter arrived at the apartment complex and met with Linda. She handed them a small black diary she had found while taking out her garbage. The diary was in rough shape, but it was clear it had belonged to Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend. The detectives took the diary back to the police station to examine it carefully. As they flipped through the pages, they discovered detailed entries about Darla's relationship with Michael. The entries revealed Darla's growing paranoia and jealousy. She wrote about her suspicions that Michael was cheating on her, not just with his ex-girlfriend Rosabeth Green, but also with a man, which they later confirmed to be Daniel Harris. One entry from a week before Michael's death stood out. Darla had written about installing hidden cameras in Michael's apartment to monitor his every move. She described how she watched him interact with other people and how it fueled her anger and jealousy. The final entry was chilling. Darla wrote about her plan to confront Michael, expressing fear that he was planning to leave her. The diary provided crucial insight into Darla's state of mind and her obsessive behavior. Detective Carter noted that the entries matched the timeline of events leading up to Michael's murder. The detectives decided to search Darla's apartment for the hidden cameras mentioned in the diary. On March 21, the police obtained a search warrant and went to Darla's apartment. They found several small hidden cameras placed around the living room and bedroom. The cameras were connected to a recording device hidden in a closet. The detectives took the device back to the station for analysis. The recordings from the cameras showed Darla spying on Michael. There were videos of him talking on the phone, meeting with friends, and even interacting with Daniel Harris. The recordings provided concrete evidence of Darla's invasive and controlling behavior. They also showed her entering and leaving Michael's apartment at odd hours, including the morning of March 15. With this new evidence, the detectives felt they were closer to solving the case. Darla's actions and the contents of the diary painted a clear picture of her mental state and possible motive for murder. The investigation was far from over, but the pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. On March 25, 2016, the police finally identified Michael Foster's murderer. Darla Green, Michael's girlfriend, was arrested for his murder. Darla was 27 years old and a fitness influencer with over 100,000 followers on YouTube. Her obsession with controlling Michael and her use of steroids had made her mentally unstable. The detectives pieced together the events leading up to Michael's death from the diary found in Darla's apartment and the hidden camera recordings. The diary detailed Darla's escalating paranoia and jealousy. She suspected Michael of cheating on her with both his ex-girlfriend Rosabeth Green, who was also Darla's mother, and his best friend Daniel Harris. On the night of March 14, Darla confronted Michael in his apartment. Her anger and jealousy led to a heated argument. The hidden cameras recorded parts of this confrontation. In a fit of rage, Darla grabbed the phone charger cord and strangled Michael. The struggle left the apartment in disarray, and Michael tried to fight back but was overpowered. On the morning of March 15, Darla left the apartment, hoping to make it look like Michael had been attacked by someone else. She went to the gym to establish an alibi, but the gym's security cameras did not capture her presence, weakening her defense. Detectives Sharon Mitchell and Emerson Carter gathered all the evidence and presented it to the district attorney. With the diary, the recordings, and Darla's inconsistent alibi, they had a strong case against her. The police decided to arrest Darla at her apartment. On the afternoon of March 25, the police arrived at Darla's apartment. Detective Mitchell knocked on the door, and Darla answered, looking surprised and nervous. Detective Carter informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Michael Foster. Darla's face turned pale, and she began to cry, but she did not resist arrest. As Darla was taken away in handcuffs, the news quickly spread. Michael's family was relieved that the murderer had been caught, but devastated by the betrayal from someone they had trusted. They expressed their gratitude to the police for their hard work in solving the case. Neighbors and local media, including Delive AFF 48 News, reported on the arrest, highlighting the tragic end of a troubled relationship. The community was shocked that someone as well-known as Darla could commit such a crime. The arrest of Darla Green marked a significant breakthrough in the investigation. The detectives felt a sense of closure, knowing they had brought Michael's killer to justice. However, the pain of his loss remained for his family and friends, who had to come to terms with the tragic events. The trial of Darla Green began on June 12, 2016, at the Madison County Courthouse. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets covering every development. The courtroom was packed with reporters, family members, and curious onlookers. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Oliver Leeson, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and thorough. In his opening statement, Leeson laid out the evidence against Darla. He highlighted the diary entries that detailed her escalating paranoia, the hidden camera recordings that captured her confrontations with Michael, and the physical evidence from the crime scene. Leeson argued that Darla's jealousy and obsession drove her to murder Michael in a fit of rage. The defense attorney, Lisa Roberts, was a 38-year-old known for her calm demeanor and sharp legal mind. She argued that Darla was not in her right mind at the time of the murder due to the effects of steroids and emotional stress. Roberts claimed that Darla's actions were not premeditated but the result of a temporary lapse in judgment caused by her mental state. Throughout the trial, Michael's family sat in the front row, their faces a mix of sorrow and anger. They listened intently as witnesses, including neighbors and Michael's friends, testified about the turbulent relationship between Michael and Darla. Daniel Harris's testimony about his secret relationship with Michael added a layer of complexity to the case, revealing the depth of Darla's jealousy. The jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict. On June 28, 2016, the foreman announced that Darla Green was found guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Michael's family hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. They felt a sense of justice but were still grieving their loss. During the sentencing phase, the prosecution argued for a severe punishment, emphasizing the brutality of the crime and the impact on Michael's loved ones. The defense pleaded for leniency, citing Darla's mental health issues and lack of prior criminal history. In the end, the judge sentenced Darla to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was met with mixed reactions. Michael's family felt it was a fair punishment, while some of Darla's supporters believed it was too harsh, considering her mental state. The community was divided, with debates about the influence of steroids on behavior and the responsibilities of those who used them. The trial's conclusion brought some closure to Michael's family, but the emotional scars remained. They had to learn to live without him, holding on to the memories of the kind and gentle man they had lost. After the trial, life slowly began to move on for everyone involved. Michael Foster's family struggled with their loss, but they found solace in their memories of him. His parents, David and Linda Foster, started a charity in Michael's name, the Foster Animal Foundation, to support animal shelters in Huntsville. This helped them feel connected to Michael's passion for animals and gave them a sense of purpose. Daniel Harris, Michael's best friend and coworker, faced a difficult time. The revelation of his secret relationship with Michael had shocked many, but he received support from friends and colleagues. Daniel continued working at Happy Paws, the dog kennel Michael had started, determined to keep Michael's dream alive. He also sought therapy to help him cope with the trauma and grief. Rosa Beth Green, Darla's mother and Michael's ex-girlfriend, also found the aftermath challenging. As a high school science teacher, she focused on her students, finding some distraction in her work. She remained in touch with Michael's family, sharing their sorrow and supporting their charity efforts. The ordeal brought her closer to them, creating a bond of shared grief. Darla Green's YouTube channel, once filled with workout videos and health tips, was abandoned. Her followers were shocked by the news of her crime. In prison, Darla participated in mental health programs and anger management classes. She spent her time reflecting on. Michael's friends and family held an annual memorial at Happy Paws on his birthday, celebrating his life and love for animals. This gathering became a tradition, a way for everyone to remember Michael and find comfort in each other's company. The trial and its aftermath had left a mark on everyone involved. They had all been touched by Michael's kindness and the tragedy of his untimely death. Through their efforts to honor his memory and support each other, they found a way to heal and move forward.